genetically, white people are inferior to black people. Destiny, he has a fetishization for black women, reproduce with someone else, let's say European. Do you agree that genetics would be diminished?
Yeah, please go ahead and read me some more, dude. Would you ask me another big question? Okay, so no, okay, you guys have me sound like a communist here. Okay, the idea that people are like hyper target. I'm not. You don't even know what the a communist is. Okay, shut up.
You are a white supremacist.
I'm muting. No.
It's like everybody forgot what the systemic racism actually meant. It doesn't, like, the whole point of systemically racist structures is that they persevere and exist independent of any racial actors. Who's committing more crimes, okay? The answer to this should be black people, because black people in the United States have had a history of oppression and currently are the most socioeconomically group of people, largely broadly speaking, in the United States. Now, this breaks down among more specific lines. Are you a black immigrant versus like an African American? Of course. However, okay, this is something that's important to recognize. For us to simply just hand wave all this away and to be like, oh, well, actually, all the crimes that are committed by every community is just the same. It's actually just the same. It's all just like the police fudging numbers. Oh, well, in that case, well, helping any black communities for like educational institutions, or helping anybody in terms of like better housing. Like, I guess everybody just commits crime, right? You're losing the plot when you're getting into this world. It's like, oh, well, everybody acts the same. That's obviously not the case. We know that because being socioeconomically will have a ton of negative impacts on you. And we should acknowledge this. We do acknowledge this. And so to walk all of this back and be like, oh, well, everybody commits the same amount of crime at the end of the day, is like, you've lost the plot. If we blame everything on race instead of taking a broader look at things, and then we implement policies that are along those lines, we end up, one, hurting the people that we need to help, and then two, we don't have any idea what we actually need to do in society to help anybody.
We can acknowledge we live in a world of white supremacy. That being said, the black family is under attack. It always has been. Now, genetically, white people are inferior to black people. That's just a fact, genetically. Which is why there have been certain barriers and things put in place to systematically oppress black people in comparison, and given
wait, does nobody care about this?
A privilege and advantage to white people. That's just a natural fact. Genetically, they are inferior.
So do you?
Wait the fuck on. Hold on. What?
No.
I would say that obviously if
wait, what are we talking about right now?
Yeah, I would say that Native Americans would be absolutely just as compatible. But I mean, I would not say that they would understand the black experience in America. No.
God, I want to get on this panel so bad. Hold on, fuck.
Say all these things all the time.
Give me a second. Hey, Destiny, do you want to be moved in?
Yeah, whenever there's room.
Okay, let me just ask about how that can be done, and then I will get that done for you. Yeah.
God, I feel so bad. I'm like cutting in line. Fuck.
What it is.
Oh my God, I feel like such a dick. This is white privilege, I think, guys. I'm getting white privilege right now. Fuck.
Pause. We're pausing right now. Everyone be quiet.
Are they gonna kick somebody off?
We are letting our friend Destiny in.
Oh no, this is such a dick move.
It's not personal, but someone's gonna get bounced, all right?
God,
absolutely
I feel
not
so
personal.
awkward.
Don't worry about it. Anyone volunteer?
The reason why 1-in-4 black women do not get married is because you have to attribute to that the way we value their features, the way we value them, the way we attribute money to them. Like, oh, these features won't make enough money. This is why we don't have this is why we don't put them in certain job positions. This is why we don't market them in certain commercials. This is why in dating apps, I think we had this conversation before, you'll choose who you want and you'll swipe right or swipe left on the features you think are attractive. Even height is an indication of what you're attracted to. We're talking about dating and marriage. Now, this is what I'm saying. You're allowing culture to dictate, and I think I wanted to say this before, a long time ago. You're allowing culture to dictate your preference. You are not allowing yourself to have, there's a lack of critical thinking there, where you're not saying, okay, you can acknowledge the reality, but don't do it because of the, of what is racism. Like I said, the term race is fairly new. It has actually muddled our ability to come together, and then it's not even consistent amongst what you consider black. You can consider a multitude of things to be black, but specifically, I think for this conversation, we should focus on African American. African American is very specific, all right? Even though within our community, there's different things. It's very specific. What we're talking about, the Black American experience. Now, I'm saying to Fanatic, yeah, you can choose to acknowledge that there is a reality that Black women are deemed less than, and thus, in results, they are not chosen. Okay, but do that from your own conclusions. Don't do that just because you've now educated yourself on what culture is saying, and not because you're not dating culture. You're dating that individual. You don't know what experience.
Can you stop?
You don't know.
Okay, wait. Explain this to me.
I'm attacking the idea, Fanatic.
I know. I'm trying to ask you a question. That's a clarifying question. I'm asking you a clarifying question because you've said this like 4 times, and every time I've missed it.
I'm gonna keep saying it.
Okay, wait, so now I'm asking you to clarify so that you can, or you can just talk past me and I'll just ignore you. Which one do you want?
Go ahead.
I don't understand, so I'm asking you a clarifying question.
Go ahead, my brother.
Conversation
Guys, good. Ask question, please. And then we're gonna move on because I got other people I'm trying to let in. All right. And if not, we're gonna sum down the panel. I will toss you out. Gotcha. All right, hurry up.
Now, what do you mean when you keep saying I'm letting culture dictate? What does that mean exactly?
What do you mean? You're allowing the issues of culture every time you say you're very careful with your words. You're very good with your words. You always say that the way America is treating us, the way the media has portrayed us, you always allude to what culture and media and the system, the institutions have done to us. Therefore, you are making a stance to, it's not of love. It's kind of, and then I'm not saying that's, if you're doing out of love, that's you. But there's a lot of people who say, I need to make a political stance. I need to protect my community. Thus, I must align and marry a Black person because it is to the betterment of. I'm saying if you're only doing that by that's what I'm saying. Dating,
Legendary,
and marriage.
You're next any which way. Legendary and Steven. All right, so finish your point.
Dating and marriage is inherently nuanced. If you're allowing culture, if you're allowing family to dictate your decisions in the nuance, you are thus limiting and restricting yourself. If you choose to do so, it is your choice, right? It's good for you if you say so, but I'm saying I'm attacking the idea and saying it's not inherently good. In fact, it's against the definition of love. And there's several definitions of love. There's agape love. There's malia. There's the familiar love. That's what I'm saying. Politics isn't about love. Politics is about power. You're not 100%. Out here. Economics is not about love. It's about power. Come on now. If you're going to get into dating and marriage, let's be more loving. You were out here saying before that love, because we're focusing more on love, marriage is now failing. I'm like, what? No, it's because they're allowing us to love each other. More people are allowed to get to you forget that it was illegal to have interracial marriage in the 60s. So I push everybody in this panel and in the chat, go read the court case Loving versus Virginia?
Virginia, yeah.
Loving versus Virginia, 1964. The white man had to fight to his down, like literally.
Okay. Come on, wrap it up, dude. We gotta go. We got a lot of people.
Come on, don't let culture dictate what you do. If you're making a stance, that's fine. But
okay, great. Sorry, Legendary, and then we'll go with Steven, please.
I don't see a problem with anybody acknowledging the society and the world that we live in and basing our decisions off of that. That's it. That's all I gotta say. I'm willing to just listen right here.
I'm surprised. Okay. All right, Steven.
Learning.
I'm just curious. This sounds like such a depressing way to pick a relationship. It's like, I'm imagining like if we were to go by
I'm not depressed.
If we were going
I'm not depressed.
If
I
we
love
were
Black
going
women, I love Black people, and I love my people. I'm not depressed at all. Thank you.
Okay. I mean, I've heard a lot of white people say they love white people and they only want to be with white people, but we can argue whether or not there's a difference. I'm just saying like the idea of like identifying like your love interest with like a struggle sounds like such an unbelievably sad way to pick a relationship. Like I'm trying to imagine applying this to that is what I interpret from it. That's what I'm talking about. Yes. That's why I'm speaking right now. Yeah. So like if we were to identify any other group of like people that have experienced like a struggle or a trauma, like I can't imagine telling them that like, oh, well, you should like, I think it's probably good to only date other people that have like these types of experiences. Like if you were like abused as a child, like you should only date other people that were abused as children because they're the only people that understand you. Like, I don't know, like that mentality just seems really strange to me.
That's petty, and you're petty.
It is.
not petty.
What is petty?
Let me respond really quickly. Let me respond really quickly.
Petty.
Let me read here. That's a complete mischaracterization, and I feel like a few people have made this statement. I actually wrote that down in my notes, and I was going to address it.
Go for
right.
it.
So, like, first off, this whole belief, right, like that, like as he said it, like you're inherently like not using love, like you're abandoning love, and you're like when you're choosing your partner, and I think that's 100% a mischaracterization. Because while I look at these characteristics, that doesn't mean that literally every person who falls within this is automatically compatible. There's a bevy of different things. I'm going to be looking at like agreeableness. I am going to look for a physical attraction. I am also going to look for compatibleness as far as our virtue and our moral systems. I'm going to look at whether a person is like intellectually stimulating, whether a person is musically inclined. I think it's an incredibly important thing. Music is one of the top 3 most important.
Fucking luck.
So I'm going to be looking at all of these different factors. Now, some things you're going to eventually have to compromise on. But at the end of the day, you do look at like all of these different various factors and considering that. And love is obviously going to be a required component. Now, you can fall in love. You can look and be exclusive. You can be selective on your dating partners and on choosing who you fall in love with. You can do that. So that doesn't mean now that I'm not going to use love as a thing. It's not like I'm looking at it from a basis of depression. I'm not a depressed person in any capacity whatsoever. I'm actually incredibly happy. I'm also super duper thriving. I talk about that all the time on my stream. There's been a complete transformation. So it's not from a place of depression whatsoever. It's an intellectual understanding that a person that's going to be able to recognize my experience and the thing that I'm going through and the thing that my children and my progeny will be going through, that person is going to probably be someone who has experienced it themselves. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to be looking for a person who's bogged down by the system, because I also believe in the ability of the individual to rise above the system that is designed to oppress them. And I don't think I'm not going to advocate for just everyone pull yourselves up by your bootstraps. But what I will say is I'm going to look for a person who also, while recognizing the struggle that we're going through, also recognizes that we have a responsibility to embed the drive to thrive in our children. And that drive to thrive is not going to be something that's passive. It has to be aggressive because the system is aggressively working against us. Again, this is not depression.
Yeah, but none of these things are unique to black people, right? I'm sure you can find white people.
Yes, they are.
No, they're not. No, they're absolutely not. What are you
Come on, Destiny. No, don't do that. No.
The degree of marginalization that African Americans have
White
experienced in this
people
country.
chattel slavery.
Hold on. First of all, no one here is a chattel slave, so I don't know why the fuck you're bringing that up. Number one,
White
okay?
people
Number two.
chattel
Number two. Number two.
Shep. Go
Watch
ahead.
your tone.
Steven, come on. Steven.
Don't come on me. Wait, hold on. We can't have a modern day discussion about like race and dating if you're just gonna screech like chattel slavery like it means anything. That has nothing to do with this conversation. All right?
I was gonna say the same thing.
It very much has. It has plenty to do with the conversation, because if you want to start talking about our cultural experiences, I don't know if you're one
None
of
of
the
you
people
have
that
a
thinks
cultural experience. Well, I'm talking my ass.
So-
Maybe
so I'm
somebody
sorry,
here was
again,
a slave. Like, what do you
Crazy like that, but let me talk.
Whoa. Thank you. Great.
Yeah.
All right. So respond to him, and then Steven, you can respond back. All right, Fanatic.
I also
go
want to
ahead.
respond because he came
Shut
out.
up. Go ahead, Fanatic.
So yeah, no. It's not. No, I'm not going to have immediate experience, but the idea that first off, it would be my great grandmother would have that experience. It was literally only 3 generations ago for her, and I would say that they would have that experience, and that culture informed a lot of the culture today to act as if the culture that African Americans today are completely removed from the experience of slavery. And again, it's not just slavery; it would be the continual cultural oppression. All of those things, and
of course,
so all those things are very, very much like culturally factors.
Yeah, of course they are. Sure. The idea that it's like that is like such an important thing to you, so that it's gonna like inform the race
to us. It's a part of our history.
Okay. Congratulations. Okay, you get applause in the chat. Okay, the idea that thing would be so important to you that's going to be like one of the defining and like one of the lines that you draw around people you date just comes off as so incredibly
Destiny,
unbelievable to me.
I would see it that way. the only thing, sure, I would agree with you. If my only criteria was just it has to be
No. Not hold on. Hold on. I'm not saying that that's your only criteria. I'm saying that if that would be a line for you. So for instance, if you were to tell me every single thing that you just said, and you said, that's why I think it would be like really nice if I had a partner that also shared this perspective, then yeah, I would agree with you. But if you're gonna tell me this is a line, I think I absolutely need to date a black person, and anybody that's not black is automatically not even considered a dating partner because they don't have that perspective. That's the thing that I'm attacking. I just think that's like a really extreme and kind of sad way to approach both your life and relationship.
Destiny, so this
understand. Not for you to understand.
Legendary. Legendary, you want to say something? That's not.
Yeah, I'm saying it's not for him to understand. You can't understand it.
Would you say the same thing? Would you say Would you say the same thing to a white person that says they will only date white people?
No,
I wouldn't care.
Wait, I just want to hear you. Wait, he said
that's their business. That's fine.
Okay, so personally, I'm a fan of not going back to the segregated dating, but I mean, at least you're consistent.
Yeah, I'm sure because you probably fetishize black women.
I don't fetishize. First of all, if anybody's fetishizing black women here, it's you. No, first of all, you have no fun. We don't know.
We're talking about why is that so important? Yeah, history. Why is that so important?
You're the one in here saying you wouldn't date anybody that's not black. So if anybody's fetishizing black people here, it's you, my dude.
How can I fetishize something that's a part that's my counterpart?
It's called self-love or self-lust. It's called self-lust. That's what it's called.
Oh God, I want to jump in here so bad, but I'm gonna let other people do it.
If I'm a black man, I came from a black woman.
It's called self-lust.
First of all, just because you're a black man doesn't mean you came from a black woman. Okay, that's a weird thing to say, right? We acknowledge. I don't know if mixed race people don't exist here. I don't know what the fuck panel. I know it said all black everything, but I didn't know we were that extreme.
I'm talking about me. I'm talking about me, Destiny. I came from a black woman.
Yeah, he said he didn't say all men come from.
Okay, is that like a justification for only dating black people?
Hold on, wait. I wanted to ask Destiny. So Destiny, like, you can. I assume you agree. I'm asking you this in a way, but I assume you agree. You agree that black people have a unique experience here in America today, right?
You won't agree to that.
I mean, of course I will. What the fuck? But I mean, like, it depends on it depends on what you mean by unique. If you're saying so unique that like literally like no other person can understand or relate to any part of like what you did, like, I mean, it depends on how unique you mean.
No. I think you understand this. Wait, Destiny, wait. No, Destiny is smart. No, Destiny, I won't give you this out. You understand exactly. This is a conservative. Wait, this is conservative Destiny coming out. Destiny, you understand what I'm saying?
No, this is not conservative. This is just I can't believe that left-leaning people are arguing against interracial dating. So that's the Destiny that's coming out right now. Okay, but go ahead.
No. So first off, I agree with dating. I agree with dating outside of race, but I don't like how it's demonized. The idea that people that do want to date inside race. I don't like that idea. So what I'm saying, hold on, wait, let me talk. So what I'm saying is that the experience that black people have in this country is very unique. So when you're going to have a black child, what Fanatic is saying, and what I would argue, even though I don't hold this view, I could argue this because I can see that it's coherent. I would want to have a spouse that could identify, relate, and give advice, blah blah blah. On the experiences that my progeny is gonna experience, and that's the.
I mean, that's great that you say that, but like another.
How could you teach a little black girl what it is to be pulled over by the cops?
How could you teach a little black girl? Wait, hold on, shut the fuck up. How could you teach? No, hold on. How could you teach a little black girl anything when you're a man? Like, what do you mean? There's going to be tons of things that you can't teach your particular child about, right? This is why you have like partners that complement your strengths and weaknesses.
You don't
like
answer questions, you just ask more questions and responses to the questions.
He's explaining.
I can answer the question. The question is, you probably listen to other black people's experiences. Hopefully, you integrate that into your worldview, and then you give the best explanation you can. That's what any parent does with their child. The fact that you think that you as a parent are going to have all the answers to your child because you have the same fucking skin color is hilariously fucking stupid to me.
So basically,
you're on mute for that.
Yeah, that's not the claim, Destiny. It's not the idea that we're gonna have.
Don't steal man this motherfucker's argument. I don't need you to come in here and tell me what his claim was. Okay, I'm responding directly to what he said.
First off,
So
him and I have
the
had all
point
kinds
is
of
you
conversations.
cannot relate to that experience. That's the point.
Yeah, and
Your kids are
furthermore-
gonna have tons of experiences that you can't relate to. Guess what? None of our fucking parents had
That
any
is-
fucking idea what the
that
fuck
is
the
a part
internet
of the-
was. That's a part of being a parent.
So Destiny, you keep stretching the argument. What you're doing is you keep
I'm not
taking the
distracting. I'm
argument-
responding.
Yes,
Stop
you are. So
stealing.
if I'm
Oh,
adult-
dude,
okay,
Fanatic
one
is
time-
triggering the fuck out of me right now.
You're absolutely.
One at a time. Holy shit, show. One at a time. All right, hold on. Steven, you can respond to what's been said.
I already responded to it. Yeah, I'm just
Okay,
saying,
good.
Fanatic.
Okay, making sure.
One guy's saying something. I'm trying to respond to it. And Fanatic keeps saying, I'm not responding. I'm not talking to Fanatic. I'm talking to the other guy. I'm responding directly to what he's saying. But sorry.
All right,
Go ahead. First off, because Legend and I have had the exact same argument. We've literally been arguing the same position. We've been talking about it for literal hours.
really.
Number one. Anyway, I'm just gonna mute Izzy. So anyway, the point is, what I'm saying is, you are stretching the argument to an entirely different place. We're not arguing, because this is my argument as well. I'm not arguing that I'm going to have every answer to every problem my daughter is going to face.
I'm not saying, no, but you are arguing. You're arguing that.
You literally just
Oh
made
my
that
God!
statement.
You're
So
about
what
to
I'm
grandstand.
saying-
Don't grandstand for 20 minutes. Let's just talk
I've
exactly.
literally not been talking. I haven't been able to finish one sentence. You keep interjecting. You made a really stupid statement that I'm addressing. You made the statement. You're not going to have every answer to every problem.
Can I just make my statement and you can respond? Can I make my statement so you can respond instead of
You already made the statement. I'm responding.
Let me tell you the statement. The statement
don't
is
respond.
that I
You just ask more
disagree.
questions.
I disagree that you need to have shared racial struggles as a necessary condition to have a child together. That's what I disagree with.
Okay, and we're not making that statement that you do have to have shared racial struggles in order to make a child together.
Oh, then we don't
That's not
disagree
what
on
we're
anything.
saying.
Cool, then we agree on everything.
We do disagree on, if you will let me finish the sentence, but I see it. You want to just keep talking over so no one ever gets a word in edgewise while you completely hyperbolize.
You've talked
literally
like 3
the argument.
times as much.
You've done it over and over and over again. First off,
Okay. Whoa. Shut up. Everyone shut up. Stop arguing about who can talk and just talk. So get your point out.
I just need to let me finish.
On to other people so they can be a part of this. All right. So finish your point.
Okay, yeah, let me finish this one statement, okay? Try not to interject this one time, okay? So look, first off, the other thing you said earlier, right? I think there's a very big difference between advocating for a personal choice to date someone within your own race, and then and making the prescriptive claim that marriage should be only between people within the same race. And so I think it's really disingenuous when you take the argument back to the point and say stuff like, well, yeah, so I guess you're, I think we shouldn't go back to the 60s and arguing about, interracial marriage. That's not the argument we're making. We're not saying that this should be the case for literally everybody. This is our claim that we're justifying based off of our experiences, and I think that there's a very obvious difference there. Secondly, no, it's not about saying that I'm going to have every answer for my daughter or my wife will have every answer for our daughter. It would be more about the idea that these specific experiences that we're talking about, we happen to hold in high enough esteem that we recognize that these individual experiences are something that probably only a black woman would understand. And so because of that, and because they are so particularly important, that it would be most likely that it would make the most sense for a black person to be able to do that.
I mean, even that statement isn't necessarily true. You could go.
How could you understand that? You said that you couldn't, and you can ask other people from other cultures and get a better worldview to answer that specific question that I asked you.
You think if you had a kid with Candace Owens, you think she's going to give that child a good perspective on how to deal with the cops?
Nope. I would not. But again,
there it is. So obviously, just being black isn't the good enough qualifier for it. There's obviously something else.
Just being black. Keep saying hyperbolizing every argument because that's not the argument.
Okay, never mind. Okay, so Fanatic, I've got Fanatic. You can explain what you want, but I'm not talking to you anymore because the other guy is saying some real dumb shit, and then you're coming in with a totally different argument, saying like, oh, well, no one is saying that, when the other guy is saying that. So you can go ahead and preach. I don't know who the fuck you're talking to, though. Have fun, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So sorry. Hold on. Sorry. No. Well, Fanatic, let Legendary speak for himself, right?
I'm speaking for myself too.
You're not speaking for yourself.
Great.
You're cutting in when I'm responding to him, trying to steel man an argument that he didn't make.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Let Legendary talk for himself. So Legendary, if you have anything else to say on this, fine. And then we can move on, right, or whatever.
All I have to say is this other guy, Destiny, he has a fetishization for black women.
Oh my fucking god.
Oh yeah,
I love Prime.
Now the funny thing is that if I say I don't fetishize,
it's so much of a problem.
Tell the truth. Just tell the truth.
It's other black people. I guess he feels like that limits his
Kenzie, can you let him talk?
with black women, and that's all I have to say, man.
Now I want to say,
what I'm talking about. You know, what Fanatic is talking about. You just go all over the place, down the road, up the river to grandmother's house.
Nah, because I would have said the same thing.
Questions, to ask more questions and talk about nothing.
Okay. Wow. All right. So. All right.
No. Because you know how you easily combat that? Like I said, the definition of love. If you talk about the definition of love, agape, which means unconditional, you literally saying, I love you despite those conditions you are setting for this dating or for this marriage. That's agape love. And I'm saying what you're introducing is then pulling away from that. And I'm fully about agape love because as my Christian social ethic, as a man I believe that a man came and died for me despite how bad I was because he loved me.
Come on, man.
That's unconditional love.
Okay,
When I go trolling, are you trolling? Hey, I'm feeling like,
all right, okay.
So when I go out and find my girl, it's not going to be conditional upon my hurt or my pain. Matter of fact, that's even terrible if you're going out to find somebody who understands my hurt and pain.
True.
Because I would that you will go out and heal before you go out and find a partner.
True.
Not just, he understands my shoes. Oh,
Yeah.
so
Preach it. Hell yes.
That's the mischaracterization. That's the mischaracterization.
They cannot relate with.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
People who cannot feel you and understand.
All the negative issues. You're not bringing up.
He's just gonna keep talking.
Okay, yeah, he will just keep talking. Indeed. All right, great. We got you, buddy. All right. I'm gonna actually slim down. I'm gonna knock out 2 people here. All right. So don't take it personally. It just is what it is. All right. And come back in the future. All right. So you're out of here, Queen. I really do appreciate you. I'll talk to you later. All right.
I'll be fine.
Okay. Next, KO Dave. All right. I'll be seeing you later. All right. Have a good one. All right. Bye.
I'm sorry, guys. I don't mean to get preachy.
I really want to say real quick. I don't fetishize black women, but I'm worried if I say that Fanatics are going to come in and scream at me that that's not what the other guy was actually saying. So I don't want to say anything.
You got to think for the brown sugar. Keep it real. I see it in your face.
Come on. Everybody loves black women.
Yeah, I'll go get my shirt, but
Destiny.
You can let people out fetishizing. Yeah, what's up?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that everybody fetishizes black women.
Okay, so all right, what we're gonna do?
That you don't want to offend right now.
What?
Okay, so what we're gonna do now? We're gonna go to Dan, who's been waiting a ridiculously long time. Then we'll go to Katarana. Right? Oh, and after that, CTV.
Yeah, it's, finally, given the time, I do completely agree with Azzy with his points. And to Destiny, like, I find it very limiting of why you have to be specific to the kind of people that you think
You're really low. You're really low. I want you to know that. You're really low.
Relate to you the most. And to where specifically Mr. Fanatic's ideal of what he thinks is a perfect spouse, to that, like, and he mentioned specifically to his race, and same as Legendary. Can we just acknowledge that race is a social construct as the same for marriage?
Wait, no. You can't say real quick. Hold on, just because people say this, you can't say that race is a social construct and pretend that means it's not real. There are people that are treated very differently in the U.S. just because of the way that they look. So it's one thing to be like, well, race is a social construct, but like if you get pulled over by a cop, you can't make that argument to the cop and have him treat you like a white person, right? So obviously, people have real experiences with their race in the United States. You can't just hand wave by saying it's not real.
Yeah, and really quick,
those 2 things are exclusive. Just because it's a social construct doesn't mean that people still won't treat you differently as a result. Like,
yeah, that's
true. It could be a social construct, and also cops could also hate us.
Exactly.
And also to point this out, it's the social aspect of race is kind of the point of what he's been talking about.
Bingo.
It's a definition.
Okay, and
good try though.
Let's move to Katarina.
Katarana.
Yeah, I just thought I should come in here. I haven't been hearing literally everything that you guys said, but I do know that there's been like a lot of people arguing the idea of that, like, people get along maybe better as a result of race. And I just wanted to throw my hat in the race as someone that, like, I basically have never dated within my race, like, in my entire life. So just thought I should come in here with that perspective. And I honestly, it sounds a little bit bourgeois, but I kind of date more along like class lines more than along racial lines because
Get out of here, bro.
no, it's just a result of like, yep, you fucking
said
caught
class
me.
lines.
Katarana,
AKA.
So, Katarana, what was asked before, and this is, I guess, what you and the rest of the panel, but someone asked in chat, like, if you are dating outside your race or have children with someone outside your race, is that anti-black, according to like definitions that were here, right? That people were saying. Like, if it means something, if it's like pro-black, it's preserving the culture. Then on the other side, is it anti-black to be, dating outside?
You can preserve your culture without the kids having your color. Like, so I'm also, as people may or may not know, I'm multiracial. So even though I don't, by looking at my skin tone, people can't tell that I'm a Black, Asian, Jewish person. That those are things I happen to be, and I'm very much immersed in my culture. I may not walk around, and people on the street might not recognize that I'm Asian, but at the end of the day, I still know a bunch about like my homeland, like at least one of my ancestors' homelands, and I understand like where we came from, how we got to where we were, the history, how to do certain things. I have my traditional clothing, etc. I celebrate the New Year's, blah 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 blah. But hey, just no on the street corner, no one knows I'm part Chinese, but that's not their business. Like my culture is my culture, doesn't need to be on the tip of my tongue or like at the base of my hair every day.
Legendary, do you have a response to that?
She chooses to date outside. She never dated a black guy before. That's her business.
Okay, fair enough. All right, but like, is it anti-black? I mean, if it's pro-black to be dating within, is it anti-black to be dating without? I mean, do you first like maybe I don't have to use the word anti-black, but is it damaging to the culture or to the community?
I would say that I am disappointed in her.
Jesus.
Well,
Christ.
Join the line. I'm sure my dad would say the same thing.
Let him finish. You said he's disappointed. Why are you disappointed?
Wait, what did she say? I didn't hear because
I don't know. Yeah, me either. Karan, would you say in response? I didn't hear.
Oh, I said join the line. You can be in line with my parents.
Oh, the line. Our parents.
Wow.
Wait, can I ask a
They
clarifying
gotta
question?
help
Is it just you just haven't dated a black person? You won't date black men or black people?
I don't have a problem with dating Black people. Like for a little bit in high school. Well, not a little bit. For a while, just because of where I was living, I sort of dated. Well, yeah, I was dating someone that was Black, but like that was basically it.
Okay, I only ask because there's a significant difference between like I haven't dated a black person or I just don't at the moment versus like I would never date a black person, right? Those two things are way different.
He's not Candace Owens. No need to.
Yeah, no, we're just not really in the same circles. As a result of my major, there's not really that many other Black people to be around. So just and I'm the only I'm one of the 2 Black people in my 250 person society.
So your major. So
she already kind of gave you all the clues to figure it out. She already gave you all the clues to figure it out.
She majors in European history. Go ahead.
No. Are you saying that your major is what you look for in a mate, and that's why because there aren't other Black physicists?
What? No, it's just culture.
My circles are different. I mostly do STEM things in my free time. Most of the work I do is related to STEM. I work on rockets in my free time, and I work on science advocacy in my free time. There's no other Black people there, and there's no other Black people there.
Okay. All right, fair enough. So we'll go to CTV.
Yeah, I think that anybody that is choosing a mate along the lines of their race is racist, right? I think it's pretty simple, right? As far as affecting the culture, Eminem came in to rap culture, changed the entire fucking landscape, right? And there was no significant damages there. The same thing can be said about Elvis Presley, right? So like these things have been happening for decades. Everybody's so worried about this shit. It's not really a thing, right? It's not really a thing at all. And here's the reality when it comes to choosing a mate in life, right? I learned this through my extensive career, 9 years worth on Navy submarines. Anytime that I flew or came into home port, it became apparently obvious to me that my dick didn't care what color that was holding the pussy. The only thing that mattered was that it was pink in the middle, right? So
get this man out of here.
There is no reason for anybody to give two flying fucks what the package looks like, so long as you get the sweetness in the middle, right? That's all that fucking matters at the end of the day. So we're worried about all these other things. They don't fucking actually matter, right? And
I'm gonna play that clip.
And be happy with yourself. If you're happy with yourself, right, and you don't worry about what other people say, you're gonna stop worrying about all that other shit, and then you can focus on some things that are really important in life, right? You know, like building community, you know, building your relationships with people, actually, you know, like giving a fuck about them instead of saying like, oh, well, you're not a part of this specific class, or you don't make this amount of money, therefore I'm not going to be bothering with you, right? See, again, it's kind of one of those things. So I just say
I'm gonna have to cut my ears off, gouge my eyes out, or something. After that one.
CTV, how many black or brown people have you had anywhere from casual to sexual relations with? I just need to know. I need to know.
Why would you?
Probably more than you.
Stupid. I've only dated black or brown people, so
okay. So how many have you been with? Because I'll tell you, I'll put it like this.
Oh God, we're getting into levels of dick waving that shouldn't even be possible.
I mean, it's true. It's true, Destiny, right? So like, I don't know why you decided to go into this as if the number of black pussies that have been on my dick actually fucking matters, which it doesn't, right?
Because I know you can lie about how many people they actually had actual intercourse with. You know what I'm saying? You know, he might have been like.
So if you thought he was wait. If you thought he was lying, you asking the question was going to expose him. That makes no sense, Azzy. That was literally.
Because I'm trying to understand behind his rhetoric the experiences that he's coming from. Because
so if you just said no,
I'm saying that
no. Okay, sorry. Stop talking over each other. Go ahead.
Yeah, I shouldn't even respond. My bad. I shouldn't respond.
Yeah, you should not, man. Literally, just let him be.
My bad, Fanatic. I'm sorry.
Fanatic, Joe, they all said, you know, we gotta stick. You know, I understand the conversation, but all these men have had interracial relationships, if not sexual. So I'm saying that. Listen. I know where I read the book Why I Love Black Women by Michael Eric Dyson. I know why I love black women. I'm still open to dating I've never have. I know where my experiences lie, and yet I'm still saying it's good to have interracial relationships. This is why I ask questions like this. I need to understand where people's minds are at, because you could just be saying stuff just to, you know, make yourself look good or be funny. And don't listen to CTV.
The fact that I look good and I'm funny only just speaks to the level of character that I bring to a conversation, right? That's it.
My single, twice divorced uncle, CTV, you know, who's only in it for the sex, and you know, so don't listen to him.
Conversation. Can we just move forward? He's just rambling.
Just skip the fucking Azzy bit. Holy fuck.
Gee whiz, I'm just talking to CTV. Y'all just so sensitive. I'm telling y'all soft, man. Come on.
You're just wasting time. You literally never say anything of substance. So every time we're just
don't shit on Azzy, bro. Azzy's racist as fuck. What are you talking about?
All right.
Anyway,
I watch the VODs. I know what I said.
Okay.
Hey, Prime, real talk. Hold on. Prime is legendary. He got disconnected. He's gonna jump back in the waiting room so he can come back in.
Okay, great. Yeah. I'll pull him in. All right, there it is. I'll pull him in.
Wait, I want to know. Now that Prime is Legends back, can I have the basis on which you are disappointed in me? Because I didn't hear what was the logic behind that.
Yeah. Legendary, when you're ready.
Yeah, hear me?
Yeah. So she asked you, Katarana asked you what was the basis that you were disappointed in her.
I'm disappointed in you because you said you're a black woman, you're biracial,
Well,
whatever.
well, you can see me, right? Like, you know, I'm pretty sure I'm black. Yeah.
You gonna let him respond?
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Fanatic. That was great and very helpful.
See you, Cat.
Yeah.
Defend your man. Defend your man.
Legend, please respond.
Watch it, Azzy. I see you, Cat. I see that you're a black woman. What I'm saying is that the black family is under attack, and I think that it's important for black people to stick with each other to the
racist.
context.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's not racist. It's misogynist.
Racist.
What it
If you're disseminating people along racial lines, it's racist. It's racist. I don't give a fuck what you say.
I'm sorry. I want to finish. I want to finish hearing his logic behind why I need to go ahead and breed specifically with other people that look like me. So please continue. I'm excited.
Thank you.
Continue.
So yes, the black family is under attack. We live in a system of white supremacy, and I think that it's important that we stick with each other politically, economically, in order to preserve
the black race.
Yes, the black race. Sure.
Oh my God.
Okay. Wait, hold on.
Wow, we should do that along white lines too, right? Except, if you say that, it'd be fucking racist. Jesus.
People already say this and they already practice it. White people already say this and they already practice it.
Hold on,
Can you guys let Fanatic respond at least? I'm so sorry.
White people already say this. White people already say this. They already practice it.
I'm very proud of what white people do. I'm so happy. But what we're talking about right now is what I'm doing. So are you done? Like, was that your logic right there? Like that I need to preserve the family and et cetera, 14 words, one soil, et cetera.
Yes, the original Trinity, which is the black family. Yes.
Okay, so first of all, you do realize that we do have
I'm not
dominant.
saying that you need to do that, but you already made your choice. I'm explaining why I was disappointed in you.
Okay, yeah, that's cute. So you do realize that melanin is a dominant gene, right? So as long as I'm reproducing with anybody, the kids will be black in the eyes of like the state, right? So I could literally reproduce with fucking powder itself, but the kid will still be quite melanated, and that kid will still be seen in the eyes of society as being black. And as long as I am their parent, and I do have lived in what is my home country, thus I do speak the language of my home country, I would still be able to preserve our culture. There's nothing just because I go ahead and reproduce with a man from Sweden that would suddenly have you say, "Oh shit. Oh, I forgot where I'm from. Mayonnaise, kids. Mayonnaise."
Give Colorado back her black card.
What you said, I'll respond to that.
Let Legend respond. Viv, let Legend respond, please.
Okay, fine.
Legend?
Pixels.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So yes, you could do that, right? But you already half black and half Asian, and if
I
your
didn't say
child,
I didn't give you my percentages. I just said I'm black and Asian Jewish. I didn't give you percentages. It can't be 50-50.
You're black, you're Asian. So if your child was to have a child or reproduce with someone else, which was, let's say, European, do you agree that genetics would be diminished due to that?
Diminished?
No,
Okay.
That's not how it works. That's anti-science.
But also, like, once again, my kid would also have that autonomy.
What I'm saying is, if a half black person and a half Asian person has sex with a full European person, would you say that now that their child is now what's the percentage on that?
We're dominant. We're superior. What you said?
Okay, so first of all, you do realize that like for all of this is arbitrary as shit, and the line at which someone's no longer considered black and considered black is all just in the eyes of the beholder, because there are people that go ahead and identify as black, and even though we can't see based off of skin that they're black, as well, they could have two half black parents, and they could end up, just because of the way that genes work, there could be like the 1 in, I don't know, 7% chance that they go ahead and they end up being lighter. But at the end of the day, both of their parents are black, and thus they would still continue on with black culture, black culture, etc. And I just
You said that. Say culture one more time. You sound like a black woman to me.
Get it. There you go. Yeah, so I just don't understand, like, what's the obsession with just going ahead and keeping, the percentages just high enough. Because at the end of the day, like, the kid, if they are completely immersed in black culture and they think that, hey, I myself want to make sure I understand the struggles of, like, I'm married to someone that understands the struggles of my heritage, they could go ahead and decide to sleep with someone that's
not of your race and culture understand.
It's called charity. It's called charity. It's called sharing. Shared experience. Charity also means love, right?
Understand that experience that is exclusive to that specific group. That story and that history is exclusive to them. How can you understand that?
They don't need to understand it.
What I just said was that I could have a kid with whatever the fuck I want, whoever I want, and then they would end up having me as the mother, and thus they would still end up having a black mother, because at the end of the day, like, I'm not just Asian and I'm not just Jewish, but I'm also black. So I would also make sure I go ahead and, like, teach them about what being black is, teach them about what being Asian is, teach them about what, like, being Jewish is, etc. And then if they want and they really feel like they're that close to, that culture, it's something that they really want to go ahead and make sure that they're marrying someone that understands it entirely, they too would have the option to either spread their legs or pull down their pants and inseminate or get fertilized by someone that is also black. And thus, it would recharge up the fucking health bar. We're black again, like it goes up and down and decreases and goes up and it all has to do with what you think culture is.
To the point where you said that they could understand. That's what I was addressing.
You don't think my kids would be able to understand?
No, talking about how you said that they could understand if someone that is European could understand.
Wait, who's they? Who's they? I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything about understanding. Why do if that's not something I particularly value, if, like, that might not necessarily be something I particularly value. Oh shit, you know what it's like to have someone call you the N-word? Wow, you're ready to fucking be my husband. You want to be it right now? Like, that might not be my most valued quality in a person. Perhaps I think ambition is good, and those are things that can go ahead and translate beyond races. Like, not necessarily, talking about, like, the homeland and how we can go back to Africa may not necessarily be something that I feel like having a conversation about for the next 20 years of my life. So thus I might go ahead and value someone that's, like, honest, and honesty is something that isn't, like, racially, like, motivated, so I can just kind of fucking choose whoever has the qualities I like in a person, so it doesn't really matter, because, like, I don't wake up every day and think about
Yes, it does, because I remember you, Kat, and you told me that you have an immigrant background, so your experience is different than mine as far as the lineage.
Well, let's look at the colors. We both have the same color. We don't.
Let him respond. Let him respond.
Yeah, hold on. You being black doesn't tell you who you are and where you come from.
I agree.
That has nothing to do with lineage. I am a black American, a descendant of American chattel slavery, descendant of freedmen. That experience is different than the experience that your background and ethnicity comes from.
What's really cool about the place that I come from? The place that I come from doesn't just have black people on it. So there's a lot of other people that understand my experience and were also enslaved that weren't necessarily black. So I can have someone that has that same experience if it's something that's so fucking important to me without them being black.
Wait, you're saying there were whites were enslaved in Jamaica as well?
Did I say white people?
Said there was other people.
What other people were you referring to?
He said chattel slavery existed in other cultures. He never said.
But she said from where she was from.
No. Yeah, don't speak for your girlfriend.
What other people?
Speak for your girlfriend.
He's black. He's black. Obviously, that's not her boyfriend.
Don't speak for your girlfriend. She don't like black guys.
Cat's married.
Katarana. All the shit. Shut up. Okay, let Katarana respond to this. I actually do want to ask a question to the white people left in the room.
That's not me, by the way. I'm half Cuban, so don't group me with those white people.
Are you half?
Black. Destiny's black.
Destiny's black. Okay, got you. All right.
Well, you guys didn't know that?
The light-skinned individuals, all right? White passing individuals. Anyway, Katarana, you can respond to that.
I mean, that was all the buzz was Reddit about Destiny being half black. You guys heard about that, right?
Destiny's half black.
Yeah, definitely.
That's
definitely
so crazy, right?
Definitely from the waist down. There's already loads of material out there just laying it out for everybody,
Thanks.
right?
That's true. And I'm only half black. That's why I can only say it in private, remember? I'm sorry.
That's right. That's right.
Can we go with the questions?
So Katarana, are you good?
This conversation, bro.
I'm just waiting to answer the question. That's all.
Yeah,
I would like to. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Nice,
So half of what I am is Jamaican, and Jamaicans also there were black people enslaved in Jamaica, but there were also Indian people and Chinese people enslaved in Jamaica. That's why if you go to Jamaica, you notice that there's a lot of Chinese Jamaicans, a lot of black Jamaicans, and a lot of Indian Jamaicans as a result of slavery. And that's why Jamaican food is so mixed, and that's why Indian culture is so ingrained into Jamaican cultures, because they've been there so long. They've been there basically as long as we have.
Yeah. Fanatic, you've been muted for 10 minutes. All right. From the chat. Okay, so to the I don't know, whatever you want to call yourselves. Stephen, do you think, right, the white family is under attack due to inbreeding or breeding with other races?
Yeah, I guess kind of, yeah. Right.
Oh no.
Why?
I mean, I don't.
Black card.
I don't think that's. I don't think. I mean, I don't think that's bad. I mean, right? Like, but if you're gonna argue, like, is the number of white people gonna decrease as like people have like interracial children? Yeah, of course. But I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't give a fuck about that. That's fine. Yeah.
Hold on, but okay.
People's numbers are already
so
decreased.
I use specifically the phrase "under attack" because, and as you already know, this is the phrase that you'll hear from like white nationalists, right?
This is
the white
conservative destiny, remember?
Under white family under attack. So that's why they use excuse for not to race mix, right? And I'm using it to reflect the language used by Legend here. So again, is the white family under attack? I'll ask it again.
I don't know if I agree with the framing. Like, I mean, like, if you want to preserve like the purity of a race or whatever, and I mean, people that are breeding with other races or having children with other races or being inseminated, of course, is going to damage that. But you're framing the question in a way that it's almost begging, like, is the white family? I don't think you can attack like races of family. I don't consider that like races of family coming and going as being attacked. Like, people change, like cultural and genetic like backgrounds change as time goes on. So I mean, like.
I agree with you. No, I'm agreeing with you.
Destiny, is there a reason why you're answering this like Ben Shapiro doing the political compass test? Like, it's not a complicated word under attack or not under attack. Like, you have to like figure out the nuance of the word. Like, you know what it means.
Well, I mean, like, I can address the issue. I just like when you phrase it that way, you're already kind of begging the question. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and say because if you're like, oh well, Destiny, you said that the white family wasn't under attack. It's like, oh yeah, I did say that. Oh really? Well, what about the fact that like white people have less children? Blah blah. Well, it's like, okay, yeah. Then I guess if you're gonna phrase it that way.
Come on, Destiny. No, because I can't let you get away with that.
It's not getting.
Are people purposely breeding in a way to make sure that there's less white people? And do you feel like this is a problem? If so, do you feel like people are purposely going ahead and doing interracial dating to make sure that you guys are no longer the majority? Like, there. Like,
no, of course not. If you phrase it that way, no, I don't think there's an intentionality behind it, and I don't think it's damaging or bad. Yeah, of course.
Under attack needs to be intentional. No one attacks things and say, "Oops, I didn't mean to fucking kill you. That was an accident."
I mean, it depends.
Involuntary manslaughter.
It depends on who you're talking to.
What depends, Stephen?
What?
What depends? You said it depends.
Well, I'm just saying because like some people, like some white supremacists will argue that like white people are under attack in the United States because of like Mexican immigrants, and they'll say, well, maybe the Mexican immigrants don't mean it, but they're still attacking our race and culture. So I'm just trying to answer questions carefully because this isn't the only panel that I'm on because people take answers and they quote them in 50 million other contexts. Sure. So yeah, okay.
Stephen, I wasn't trying to put you in a gotcha.
I know you're not. I'm just trying to explain why I answer the way that I do. I don't think that. I think that breeding or having breeding is a really fucking weird word. Can we stop using it? I think having children with people of other races races is fine. I think that mixed race people are awesome. Like, I don't care if there's white people or mixed race people or Mexican people or whatever. I don't give a fuck. Like, I think that having like a dating, like, not a preference racist, but having that be like a huge qualifier or a deal breaker is cringy as fuck. Like, I don't think that any of this is like a big problem that anybody should worry about. So, yeah.
Okay. So I want to explain why I phrase it in exactly that way. I phrase it exactly that way because that's the way Legend phrased it, right? So I'm saying be like that on the other side. So I'm actually not trying to do a gotcha here.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, fair enough. So that everyone understands, right?
I'd like to steal Man Destiny's point if I can.
No, I don't need anybody to steal man any of my points. You can speak for yourself, but I don't need anybody to steal man my points.
I get you.
I'm gonna attack the point right now.
You really only alluded to like a small part of it, right? And there's something to be said about the systems of power that are in place, i.e. the government. And whenever the government starts actually creating programs that incentivize or give opportunities to one group of people over another, it does create the dynamic where there are groups of people being propped up over others, and that's exactly where I will say the white supremacists bring that argument into play.
Yeah, so real quick, if you want to do that, people do not make decisions about having kids like this. There have been tons of governments that have tried it, and it doesn't work that way. Tons of governments have tried to purposefully like incentivize people, groups of people having children. They tried it under Mussolini. They've tried it. I think there might even be programs in Canada where they try to get people to have kids or whatever, like tax benefits, and we do it in the United States. This idea that you can like make groups of people have children when they don't want to, that's just not how people make families. There might be reasons why certain people have kids or why certain groups of people are having more kids than other kids, but it's not because the government is giving welfare to black moms and that's why they're having kids, or abortion is killing black babies. It's not like targeted government programs. There are social reasons.
Yeah, but it happens exactly when the government starts instituting the war on drugs at the federal level, starts removing black fathers from the home, right? So then they set up the conditions necessary to be able to pull the black father out of the home. Now the mother is sitting there on the welfare system and is trying to figure out how to be able to make her way through life. And you say that there's no incentive to be able to try to create these things, and yet it's something that we're seeing, right? So like the reality is slapping everybody in the face.
Yeah, sure. I don't think it was like intentionally like the government was like, we're gonna attack the black family by making the war on drugs. I think that it's a lot of other dumb shit.
That's exactly what they did, Destiny. Check out waronDrugs.org, right? It lays out specifically with Rinkelman that decided that one of Nixon's aides that said specifically that the reason why they put the war on drugs in place was to affect the black community with heroin and the Hispanic community with marijuana, right? Like this information is readily available for everybody.
No, wait,
Destiny. It's used in China. It's to attack Chinese. These are very articulate. There's very, very specific things that are designed to attack demographics. This isn't just out of the blue. Like we're just trying to get criminals off the street, because they would have been getting white people off the street too. But no, they're only grabbing.
It literally was about getting criminals off the street. That is absolutely right.
Oh God, Destiny. Wait, Destiny. Wait,
if that was true,
hold on, wait, Azzy, hold on, wait.
If that was true, then why are most of the jails filled with black men?
I don't know how radical I want to get on this panel, because I don't think this is a good place to have this discussion.
Come on, Destiny. Go full send. Come on, man.
You want me to go full send? It's because most of the people that commit violent crime in the United States are black. That's why it happened. And that's where a lot of the drug offenses were.
And there we have it.
There you go. We'll go full fashion.
Go ahead. We have white supremacy. He shows his face.
There's the white supremacy. The thing is, everyone on this panel is under 30 years old. Nobody here knows what it was like living in the U.S. in the fucking 80s and 90s. There's a reason why all of these big crime bills, there's a reason why the big Biden evil fucking anti-black crime bill and the war on drugs had so much support, not just in the white community, but especially in all the fucking black communities too. People act like, and if you guys want to walk around being fucking morons, that's great for you, because the world is really easy when you just walk around thinking like, oh, well, the reason this exists is because it was all white supremacists and blah, blah, blah. But the reality is that life is way more fucking complicated than that, okay? It wasn't just a bunch of random fucking racist people that marched into fucking the Capitol Hill with their KKK hats on and was like, let's fuck over black people. Okay, your world is so naive and stupid if you think that.
Please let me talk. I'm talking
Quick, and then I gotta
go. Okay, Stephen, if you want to get into this topic, I can fill us into the private room, and we could actually dig in with a small select few, if you want to do that.
No, this is it's like
if you don't want to go deeper, that's fine.
I mean, I'll do it, but I don't want to hijack this panel and make it like a conversation.
Oh no, it's done.
No. So make
done.
it. So go
It's
back to
done.
the dating thing. No.
No, I'm strong a black man for you to hijack it from me. Come on, Destiny.
Listen, I just have a couple of questions, right?
It's crazy how white people are the majority of the population, but yet 13% of the population are the ones who's committing all the crimes.
It's not crazy. There's really good reasons for it. I'm not sitting here saying that like black people.
Wait.
It's not accurate. Basically, y'all the majority.
Shut up. What? Shut up. Thank you.
Fuck. Hold on, real quick. Can I qualify what I said earlier? Because I'm getting like baited so fucking hard on this panel.
I'm finna give you that chance.
You're being honest.
No, fuck off with whoever said I'm being honest. Fuck you and fuck off. Listen, there are reasons why certain groups of people in the United States commit more crime than other groups of people. It's not because they're genetically predisposed to commit crimes. It's not because of one race being inferior to another, which, by the way, was said on this panel earlier about black people, which is really fucking weird. Okay, different people have had different histories in the United States, especially black people have had a very unique history in the United States, and obviously there are going to be reasons why they're in areas where they're more likely to commit crime than other people, like white people that have been like socioeconomically privileged or advantages, people that have inherited tons of wealth from their ancestors, people that don't need to commit crimes because they've got fucking rich moms and dads and they don't have to like do any of that shit in life. They live in cities where they've got economic opportunities, they go to schools because mom and dad will buy college for them. Obviously, I'm not sitting here saying like, oh, black people are inherently fucking criminals, blah, 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 blah. That sounds like some cringe shit that Legendary would say about fucking white people, okay? So fuck, before you try to bait me into some crazy ass fucking alt-righter position, okay, let me just make myself understood, okay?
That's how you felt.
Jesus.
I'm not.
Jesus, fuck.
I only
had one thing to say before I leave.
Destiny, this was my question, right? That was the quote-unquote war on drugs, which you're saying wasn't targeted at black people, which even every conservative understands now. So that's pretty interesting. But so when the CIA was dropping off drugs in black neighborhoods and arresting people, notice how during the opioid crisis, first off, we actually call it the opioid crisis, which is disgusting. But notice how those people aren't disproportionately locked up due to the opioid crisis. They're actually given help. What do you think is the difference between the black people who were given crack cocaine and the white people who are now addicted to opioids, and why isn't our government responding in the same way with just jails?
We should just tell white people just say no to them. Just say no.
Sure.
Yeah,
so I mean, like, what are you?
Oh my god.
Are you like? Are you
even respond? Go ahead.
First thing to understand, are you implying right now that there's like a ton of help for white communities that are like affected by like meth and shit? Because that is not the case.
I'm saying that they aren't being thrown in jail.
Wait a second, you don't think that really, Destiny?
That there's like all this, dude. I'm sorry, but like,
hold on.
No. Can I just finish? I can't even finish. Yeah, please go ahead and fuck me over. Ream me some more, dude. Would you ask me another fucking big question? Okay. So no. Okay. Fuck, you guys have me sound like a fucking communist here. Okay. The idea that people are like hyper target. I'm not. Fuck off. You don't even know what the fuck a communist is. Okay. Shut the fuck up. Okay. The idea that the government is like providing all this help to poor fucking white trash, like fucking redneck white people is not the case. Okay.
I said, are they being thrown in jail like black people were? And why do you think that's not the case? So stop bullshitting about are they getting help? I'm asking you, are they being thrown in jail disproportionately how black people were? That's what I asked.
My guess would be probably not, because they don't live in neighborhoods that are disproportionately policed like black people do. That would be my guess.
They're doing drugs.
But it's not about doing drugs isn't enough to get locked up for it, because if you look at like reported rape, can I fucking holy shit?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, Han.
I will never, ever. I insist on a panel that I have to take this, but I'm getting trapped so hard by so many stupid fucking bait questions about race. Okay, I'm getting super baited. So hold on. Okay, so
you are reported.
I'm muting.
No, don't do that.
Shut the fuck up. Hold on, Steven. Hold on 1 second. Steven, wait one moment. I'm muting people. All right. I don't want to have to do it. You know I don't like to do it. Right. And in fact, you know what? Fuck it. We're moving. Fuck it. That's what's happening. We're moving, all right? So we're doing this. We're having a private panel. This is what's happening right now. All right, so I'm picking the people who are going. Everyone else, sorry. Maybe we'll continue this in...
I feel like I ruined their whole thing. Fuck. I feel like such an asshole. Oh, fuck.
Yo, so, hey, I wasn't trying to cut you off. I'm just trying to further the conversation, right? So, one thing is, hold on. Well, we can. I'm happy Vivian came. I'm really happy Vivian came. This is good. I wanted to say.
Dramatic. Thanks. Oh wait, what the fuck? GSU Gambit. I'm so sorry.
All black people sound the same now? No, I'm joking.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, buddy. That's exactly what it is.
No,
hold on.
Go ahead, Dustin.
Especially when you and Fanatic are talking about religion.
So
that's when you say
there are different groups of people are policed at different rates because of the cities they live in and because of the policing decisions that we've made, right? It's not fair to black people. I'm not going to sit here and fucking pretend. If you ever wanted to make an argument about some sort of racist system existing against black people in the United States, the criminal justice system is always your go-to, and it is such an easy. So like, for instance, if you look at reported usage rates of marijuana, right? They're about equal between white and black people. And I think white people even a little bit higher, but black people get busted like 5 times as much for it per capita. It's insane, right? So when you ask me the question, are white people locked up for meth usage as much as black people disproportionately were for marijuana usage? The answer is almost always going to be no, but that's going to be because of the types of policing policies that were enacted in large cities, which is basically the only place in the US where black people live, versus all of these little rural fucking meth towns that are scattered throughout the Midwest where you don't have the same types of policing policies. So if the question is like, is it a downstream problem from these kinds of like systemic policing issues that do revolve around race that exists? Yeah, sure. But is it because everybody's just racist and wants to get black people? No, it's more complicated than that. That's such a simplistic way of viewing the world.
So here's where I disagree with like pretty much everything you're saying here. Like first off, like you said, like the war on drugs wasn't intended to harm black people, and that just sounds absolutely insane. So we have a literal quote from John Orwickman, who was the person who was literally Nixon's aide when the war on drugs was first created, and he literally said that the war on drugs, its purpose was to fight against the anti-war hippies and blacks. He literally said that, and he said that specifically because of the fact that you can't make people, you couldn't directly go to war with those individuals, so that they needed to associate African Americans very heavily with crack cocaine usage. With crack usage and marijuana with the hippies, and then as a result of that, then when you demonize the drug itself, then you can demonize those individuals. Furthermore, there's some statistics.
Do you think?
Hold on, let me
No, come on, dude. You're gonna ramble for so long. Can I just ask you about this specific
I was literally muted for 10 minutes while you guys went on. It was over 10 minutes. Just let me finish this last statement. Furthermore, there were all of these data that pointed out African Americans were 15% of the country's drug users, yet they comprise 37% of those arrested for drug violations, 59% of those convicted, and 74% of those sentenced to prison for a drug offense. So the idea is, and specifically with regard to crack, more than 80% of the defendants sentenced for crack cocaine offenses were African Americans, yet whites and Hispanics make up 66% of the crack usage. So there was very targeted, not just policing, targeted sentencing as well. And most of this has to do with prosecutorial discretion.
You're like repeating half the shit I just said. Like, thank you.
I didn't feel like you said. Well, then if that's the case, then you can understand that it's not just specifically policing, but that it would more so be the intention of the drug usage, 2, the mandatory minimum sentences, which were selectively used against African Americans, and 3rd, just simply the charging. That was disparate for African.
That's great. You're still repeating everything I said. This is why I didn't want you to just fucking ramble on your talking points for 5 minutes. I literally said verbatim, if you wanted to point to one institution in the United States that proves systemic racism, the criminal justice was the easiest one to go to. And I even pointed out like similar reported usage rates of marijuana. Literally what I just said.
Sure.
I want to moderate
what I'm asking you, can I just ask him a fucking question?
Yeah, let him talk.
I understand that there are quotes within Nixon's administration, and there are a lot of Republican quotes where people are like, oh yeah, like we want to get black people, blah, blah, blah. Do you think that the majority of the people in the United States that support like anti-drug measures, especially past the 60s, because the war on drugs, I'm pretty sure was like started it was the 70s is when it like picked up a ton, right? And then going into like the 80s and the 90s where we get our big fucking crime bill, right? And then past 2000s, do you think the majority of the people that are supporting these like anti-drug things, including black people, are just doing it because they're racist against black people?
No, I would not think that the majority of people are doing it.
That's all I'm trying to say.
Let me answer the question fully. Hold on.
Okay. Cool.
No, I would not say that the average person. I would not be. Dang, Jesus Christ. You're complaining about yourself, huh? So no one would. I would not say that it was specifically because they're just racist against black people. What I would say is that the system is engineered in such a way that they have literally selected within the media, typically demonizing these things and rephrasing them in such a way and like painting them in an image such that they can demonize African Americans. We've seen the same kind of thing when it happens like with like welfare queen, right? I would say that a bunch of people have quote cognitive biases. So while welfare was typically a white issue, if the predominant amount of people that were on it were white. What Reagan did was he selectively started rephrasing it and using specific black images to represent welfare, which then turn people sideways against welfare because of people's cognitive biases. So no, I wouldn't say that they're just inherently overtly racist, but what I would say is that their cognitive biases do change their attitude towards these things. And when we started seeing things like the opioid crisis become significantly more Caucasian, we saw a gigantic shift within the demographics, within people's political opinions regarding drug enforcement, such that now we've seen in places like Oregon and various other states around the country, this whole shift and political advocacy for the complete decriminalization of many of these drugs, whereas when it was a black problem, people weren't able to see that.
Okay, hold on, wait. Firstly, I'm so curious. Can you tell me which states are trying to decriminalize fucking meth?
I think Oregon was one of the things where they were trying to decriminalize literally all drugs.
Okay, so what you just said was total fucking bullshit, okay? As somebody who's from the Midwest, the idea that all these Midwestern states are now pushing to decriminalize fucking meth or opiates. Okay, but this is where like the huge fucking opiate and fucking meth problem shit is like destroying like white families, I guess, or whatever, or white people. Okay, like most states right now that are pushing to decriminalize a drug are usually pushing for marijuana. Okay, so just be careful. For everything else that you said,
no, you were wrong. Oregon pushed to literally decriminalize heroin, methamphetamine, LSD, oxycodone, and other hard drugs.
Okay,
that was literally their ballot measure,
wow.
and Oregon is not the only state to do so that's just not true.
That's great. That's great. Congratulations. I'm applauding you right now. Okay, I'm applauding you. Okay, the vast majority of states are not pushing to decriminalize all drugs. That's what I said. I'm sure there are a couple. Okay, now I don't know if Oregon is like a bastion hotspot of fucking white family meth heads, and that's the big push that they're getting, rather than just like a ton of fucking liberals that moved up from California now live in Portland and want to legalize the drug. Okay, now you can pretend that it's for whatever reason. Okay, everything else that you said, I probably agree with, generally speaking, right? There are a lot of systems that are set up in ways that favor white people. Absolutely. Even if they don't intend to. I agree with all of that. But I think that phrasing it the way that you did is a lot better and gives us a much more insight into reality than just saying it's all white supremacy. That's all I'm saying, okay?
So this was my question, though. You understand the systems in America. You understand historically what their aim has been to lock up black and brown people or enslave them, blah blah blah, right?
I don't like using that phrase, but okay, go ahead.
But you also understand that there were people in Nixon's administration who were pushing for this for the sole purpose of continuing those historic things. But then you aim and say there are some people in the populace who voted for it, so that means that it wasn't racial intent. So my only problem was, I think I know that you're smart enough to understand all of these historical things, but you disagree with CTV's point that it was racially motivated because there were people in the population that would vote for it. When I think you understand that people can architect something and there can be others that go along with it, but that doesn't like diminish the plan that was drawn out and why these things came to fruition.
I don't necessarily disagree with anything you've said. The only problem I have is that when you frame all of it and just say it's racism or racial biases, there's two huge problems happen. One is just descriptively, we're not accurately describing what's happening in reality. But two, the really big problem is we can never, ever, ever, ever fucking fix any fucking problem in this country when everybody is acting like the only reason why we have problems with race is because of racist people. It's like everybody fucking forgot what the fuck systemic racism actually meant. Like the whole point of systemically racist structures is that they persevere and exist independent of any racial actors. The whole point.
That's along my point.
What? Yes.
I'm telling you that this policy was racist, regardless of people not being racist. You're agreeing with me.
No, I do agree with that. But I don't like it when it's phrased as just saying it's just racism or white supremacy, because what happens is one, people that exist on the ground and know conservatives automatically assume that you're full of shit, because in a way you are, because there are a lot of people that support these types of programs that aren't racist. And then when you have this huge disconnect with reality, when you're starting to describe, like, for instance, and I don't know if I'm opening a can of worms, but when you start saying shit like everybody that supports the police hates black people, everybody that's against ACAB hates black people, everybody that's against defund the police or what happened? I understand what you're saying, okay? But I'm saying that when these are the like majority talking points, you're so disconnected from reality. Not you in particular, I'm sorry, but like the movements people to say this, that now you lose the plot and nobody follows your arguments anymore because everybody's like, well, wait, hold on. I know a lot of people like that. What?
You know where I'm gonna go. Don't bring up with airheads on Twitter and everything. Like, I want to have a conversation with you amongst us. Nobody here is making those stupid claims, so we can demonize those dumb people all day, right? But I don't want to use this time to do that.
And you know
so
what?
Let's talk specifically about this.
Listen, if you and I were talking in a room and it was just you and me, and you were to say like, you know, I think that like a lot of the drug war and a lot of that shit is like has to do with like fucking racist shit, I would probably just say yeah. I would probably just agree with you. But it's not just you and me talking, right? There's audiences, and I think that you have to be really careful with how you discuss a lot of these things, because when you start veering off the lived reality and the knowledge that people have, like, well, hold on, wait, I know a lot of conservative people, they don't like fucking hate black people. Or like, I have a lot of black friends and they support shit like this, right? You lose everybody, and it's all fucked. So that's why I'm just.
But we aren't making those hyperbolic statements, Destin. So we never say all conservatives are racist.
I want to try Katarana, please.
So we moved in here, and then I guess some people like assumed that there was a topic, but all we said was that we're going to talk more about prisons, and then now there's no clear topic. Can I please get a clear topic? Because all I hear is people just saying I agree in really loud voices, and it's like, yeah. What is the topic? What exactly, or what is the nuance? What was the thing that we needed to go ahead and have a private conversation about?
Well, it's been pretty clearly just a topic about like criminal justice reform, and not just criminal justice reform, specifically about systemic racism and whether or not this country. I think the conversation that really drove it was when Stephen made the statement. I think I wrote it down. I think he said something along the lines of like, he said the war on drugs wasn't intended to harm specifically black people, and I guess that was in line. I guess we got there by asking if there were people attacking specific black families or so on and so forth. And so then when he made that statement that the war on drugs wasn't specifically to harm black people, it was like, in what universe? It was literally like
so we kind of resolved that now, right? Like,
I don't think so. Not even a little bit. So there was a few things that I wanted to point out.
Destiny agreed that like the intent of these laws was probably racist, but the people that support it nowadays are not necessarily racist, right?
Is that your position, Destiny?
Yeah, or even back then, I don't know if the majority of the people that support it, at least not when we got to like the 90s. It's possible like in the fucking 60s and early 70s that there was a lot of like racist intent, especially because weed was so heavily associated with black communities and shit. That there was a lot of, but I just painting everything with the racist brush is just so simple and loses so many people in the conversation.
Yeah,
I try very hard not to
what
do
we're
that.
doing. But I don't feel like we are doing that. I don't think we're painting everything with the racist brush, but I think we're painting this specific racist thing, this specific racist system, this probably the single most harmful thing against African Americans in this country in the last 60 years. That specific racist thing, we're talking about that specific thing.
And I agree with you.
And hold on, I want to point out really quickly one other thing. Dude, you went back and forth 5 times, bro. Like, just chill.
Can I say one sentence and then I'll be done? Okay. Let me just say one sentence and I'm done. Okay. Because you keep refuting me saying we weren't talking about that. Okay. Maybe you weren't or something. But this, just to remind everybody, this came off the back of the question of like, does attacking families need to be intentional? And it felt like for a while people were like, oh well, if you're talking about attacking families, then that needs to be an intentional thing. And then from there it was like, well, what about the war on drugs? Is that intentional? So that's why I'm just trying to be clear with what I'm saying. Okay.
Okay. I got you.
Okay. Go for it.
So then to go ahead and finish my point. So regarding the decriminalization thing, so there were plenty of legislations that happened with that. So after after Oregon did it, then New York introduced legislation, Washington introduced legislation, California did, Virginia did. All of these people started looking into legislation to decriminalize drugs, hard drugs, they were literally making it so that some of them introduced legislation that would say you would only pay a $50 fine if you were caught with small amounts of things. Therefore, like, it wouldn't impact like people who were selling and things like that. The reason why this happened is because, in my opinion, and I think it's pretty obvious, is that now that the opioid crisis is predominantly hitting white Americans, now people see these issues as affecting their families, see them as affecting their brothers, their uncles, their dads, and so on and so forth. When people can identify with a problem and they see it as something that's close to home, then they can relate more with it, and then it changes their sympathies. I brought up the welfare queen example earlier because sympathies for welfare dramatically shifted once the typical imagery became that of African Americans. These things dramatically affect things. And no, it doesn't mean that people, again, are racist, but it does mean that a lot of times cognitive bias greatly impacts and informs people's decisions and their actions. It is. But again, that's why I said they would not be overtly racist, but they would have that cognitive bias.
Okay, and
likewise, when it came to like the judge with what's his face, with the Brock Turner situation, he literally said, "I saw my son in there." Right? Like, these things do impact things.
I don't think that people.
Something that you said earlier that I really wanted to challenge and come in on ever so slightly is that I think that you could be right that there's a certain motivation towards helping out white folks who are in trouble now that people see the opioid crisis as affecting white people. But I also think that there's a number of other causative factors, such as just like people generally becoming more progressive, right? Like I don't think it's simply racial animus that like drives these things, and I think that's what Destiny's trying to get at, is that these issues are more complicated than simply, oh well, we're changing policies on the opioid crisis now because it's affecting white people. No, I think there are like multiple fucking factors, and maybe race plays into it, but we won't be able to completely solve or understand these societal changes or these societal issues if all we do is say, oh well, it's race every time, right? And I think that's essentially what Destiny's saying.
Yeah, and also I totally disagree with the idea that like we're legalizing all drugs now because of the meth problem in the Midwest. This has been a problem in the Midwest for like 30 fucking years, okay? Like as Vivian said, the whole US is becoming more and more progressive on drugs. A lot of states have like decriminalized marijuana. Like we're probably going to continue to move in that direction. I don't think it's just because people suddenly care about like rednecks in the Midwest like being addicted to meth. I don't believe that.
So the reason why I would say that we're in the middle of an opioid crisis, and I get the idea of you wanting to try to like normalize and say this has just been sort of a factor that's been part of the country, but it hasn't. So as of 2019, 50,000 people died from opioid overdoses. That was a dramatic spike from back in the day. Like this is not something that's been just a continuous thing. We have seen significantly more people addicted to opioids. We are in the middle of something which would be an outlier. This is not the norm. This is not what has typically been happening. And the face of the opioid crisis is definitely white, as a lot of these things happen from like literally prescription medication and so on and so forth. Also, I want to point out really quickly, I was not making the statement that it was only race. That's the only factor that causes these things. I think all of us should be intelligent enough to recognize that there's going to be a lot of other factors. However, what I would say that one of the major factors that is changing these attitudes is race. And furthermore, I would like to point out this in this last election cycle, voters approved every major state level marijuana and drug reform measure put before them. And I'm saying that's an absolute, and I really hate using absolutes typically, but that's one that I'm going to use. Every major state approved, they all approved that. So if that's the case, clearly there has been a dramatic shift in attitudes. Now, I do understand overall, mostly Americans do support marijuana as whatever, and there are differences in attitudes regarding other drugs. However, every single one of them, including other drug legalization, have been approved by American people, which is showing a dramatic shift in attitude. Yes, some of that's some just general progressivism, but also I would say one of the larger driving factors, which you guys can choose to ignore if you want to, would be the white face on this new opioid crisis. And it's not just in the Midwest. That's happening literally around the country, because prescription drugs are something that affect literally every state, literally everywhere. The opioid crisis is not specifically germane to the Midwest. I don't know where you're even getting that.
Yeah. So the opioid crisis is like the topic of discussion in Destiny. You keep bringing up like fucking meth heads in the Midwest, and like the meth crisis and the opioid epidemic have extraordinarily different characteristics. Like fucking Fanatic was just talking about with the
prescription
drugs that people get put on prescription drugs, they come off and they move on to other shit. Or they just take and abuse prescription.
I'm just saying, we've had problems with meth in the Midwest for a long time, and nobody seemed like they wanted to legalize meth for white people there. So it just seems weird to point to the entire country becoming more progressive about drug usage, and it's like, it's because of white people looking at other white people.
When you say problem, were they dying or being jailed?
It's also very much a class thing. Right?
Of course, I agree, yes.
With the meth stuff, right, it's typically
poor people that no one gives a fuck about.
People see meth heads as people who nobody gives a fuck about, prostitutes and fucking like rednecks living out in the whatever the fuck you call them, the boonies. I don't fucking know. Anyway, but the opioid epidemic is like fucking moms with back pain and shit. You know, like it's very much like a class thing as well. And I think that plays into it almost as much as race nowadays, in fact.
So the reason, really quickly, if I can just throw some numbers really quickly, because I really hate this conflation thing that you're doing here, because these things are very, very, very obviously distinct. Just some numbers really quick.
You're gonna need to give sources if you're gonna give numbers.
I don't care. No, I'm not going to. So anyway, so it's really simple. If you want to just look on the Wikipedia page. Anyway,
Thank you.
Oh
my God, thank you so much.
From 1999 to 2017, more than 399,000 people died from drug overdoses, right? But in 2017 alone, there were 70,000 people, right? So like the idea is that this opioid crisis is not just a simple to the typical thing that we've been experiencing all this time. I don't know why you're conflating these two. The reason why we're referring to it as an epidemic is because the numbers are dramatically. There are all kinds of there's all kinds of there's literal graphs like you can look at that show how dramatic this uptick is.
Fanatic, do you have the numbers on like how many of those deaths are due to prescription drug overdoses and how many are due to illicit narcotics?
I'm pretty sure I can find it. It's not like I came prepared for this argument, right? So like, no, I don't have all of that on hand, but we can find it.
I guess I'm just interested because like that would be indicative of it being like more of a class issue and less of a race issue if it were in fact that like the majority were like from prescription drugs, right?
Well, sure, yeah, but I do think so. That's I think one of the biggest problems. So again, there's a lot of things leading towards this shift, right? So obviously, when it came to the opioid crisis, like one of the largest things that like literally led to it, the reason why this crisis is different than the others, than like just typical meth usage, is because specifically in the 90s is when we started making this big shift towards trying to use opioid drugs. In fact, there was like there was just recently this very big lawsuit because they found out that like one of the largest producers of some of these prescription drugs were in bed with the doctors, and so they were giving them large amounts of financial incentives and causing them to overprescribe these drugs. And these things, right? I think so. Actually, codone, or maybe I'm tripping. But in any case, those things largely contributed to people becoming more addicted towards these drugs, and it's very, very hard. So we saw Jordan Peterson go through that pretty recently, where it was like he was literally taking prescription drugs, and then those things created some insane addiction in him. This thing is really, really common, and obviously this has been a dramatic shift. Obviously, medical problems within this country are pretty freaking prevalent. We're like one of the where we're incredibly unhealthy. So because of that, that's why this crisis became such a bigger thing. And you couldn't just offset it and say, oh, this is just like, hoodlums or whatever. This is like affecting like more people that people can relate to, and that's why. That, and I think also.
Okay. I want to see if what Ledger have to say. Then we'll go to Catarana.
You want me to speak?
Yeah. Like what are your thoughts on all of this?
I just wanted to point out that these policies and laws are definitely race-based. The 1986 Anti-Drug Abuse Act specifically differentiated the crack to cocaine sentences was basically meant whoever did crack, which was associated with black people, went to jail for 30 or 100 times more than the sentences of people who did cocaine, which was the 100 to 1 sentence differentials. Is basically what I'm saying. So basically,
pharmacologically, those aren't that
black,
different.
you went to jail for 30 years, and if you did cocaine and you was white, you pretty much did little to no time in jail at all. Also, the 1994 crime bill incentivized states to take on those same exact crime bills. So, what was it? I think it was called the Truth in Sentencing Statute, that put $13 billion in the hands of the state on the condition that that state would change the laws to make them reflect the 1994 crime bill. So yes, these policies and laws and legislation was specifically targeted black people, and it reflects that in the laws.
Okay, I think you're bringing up the interesting about the institutions, right? That still stay, right? Like it's beyond like the intent, but the institutions themselves. Let's go to Catarana, and then Stephen can respond to all this if he has anything else.
Well, the question says, do black men commit more crimes? And now we're talking about drugs. Which one are like? Can we talk about prison? Because I think that's just the one that we all thought we were gonna come over for.
They're related. They're related.
Got absolutely fucking chewed out for was when he was like, black people in the United States do commit more violent crime, right? Which like everybody was like, oh, fucking Azzy, like, oh, he's showing the face of white supremacy now, and I'm like sitting here, I don't know, maybe I'm being dumb and fucking white in English. I'm not in the United States, but I can't see how that's like necessarily a white supremacist statement. Like,
Okay,
Well,
so then
I'll
I
explain.
disagree with that. I'm not gonna argue
well
for
then
that.
okay, hold on. Well then
Yeah.
this can go ahead and be expanded on because that was a statement in which required more nuance, and thus Stephen went ahead and gave the nuance, and then from there, Prime Legend still said that that's white supremacist. So this is now where I want to understand why, like, what exactly makes the statement in itself white supremacist if that is like if it's the case that black men are the ones that are being convicted of more violent crimes, is that in itself a racist statement, or is the whole fact that he stated that it was disproportional in the black person and black people's end what exactly makes it white supremacist?
It's white supremacists because white people commit crimes, but yet they make up the majority of the population. Black people make up 13 of the population, yet we make up majority of the population in prison. We just specifically pointed out the laws that was passed and created to target certain people and how those laws reflect the people that they targeted, which were black men.
sure, but racist sentencing disparities don't account for the entirety of that imbalance in the prison population.
Sure,
Like,
it wouldn't just be that.
Yeah,
It would be over policing as well, right?
yeah, part of that is over policing. Part of that is the fact that black folks in the United States do commit more violent crime because they come from disadvantaged neighborhoods because of the way that society is structurally racist and black folks are more disadvantaged, and we know that people who are impoverished are more likely to commit violent crime. Like it's not a like white supremacist or racist or race essentialist statement to make necessarily.
Sure. So I think the point.
Well, no, you guys really got to talk for a really long time, and that was really fun. But like, I'm really trying as
Speak.
somebody.
Go. Speak.
Oh, okay, so from that, Prime, do you disagree that legend that black people are not committing more of the violent crimes?
I agree that you have to put it in context.
Okay, and you understand that the context is years of history. But
Because-
even within that context, it's still true that black people do commit more violent crimes on average.
You have to put it in context because it's white people who are shooting up schools.
Okay, and they go to jail. Now,
when they do it, he had a bad day.
Okay, and that's great that he had a bad day. And I do agree that
Great
people...
that he had a bad day. That's propaganda.
Listen,
Vivian, stop.
Listen, so I agree that the media does say, "Oh, poor white kid, oh, life's so hard." Great, but do they or do they not go to jail for that afterwards? They don't just let them back on the street and say, "Hope you don't shoot things again, buddy. Here's a slap on the ass." Like they go to jail.
In some cases, they do go to jail. In other cases, they get little to no sentences at all.
Okay, so people have gone ahead and done
As opposed to someone who looked like me.
Hold on.
I would be
okay,
in jail.
first of all, so two things. First of all, when you say that they get sometimes they just go on about their day. There's been times where people have gone and shot up an entire school and injured 20 people, and they've just went on about their day afterwards. They just gave them a pat on the ass and said, "Yepers, buddy, have fun." Like, has that happened?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay, but you just literally said that when black people do the same thing. First, I'm talking about, you said they were having a bad day, right? And the only time that they go ahead and do the whole they were having a bad day thing is when it relates to mass shootings. And they don't say he was having a bad day when he goes and kills his girlfriend. They say he was having a bad day when a 16-year-old goes to a high school. And in those cases, they never just let them off. And also, you don't have a very equivalent situation for that because black people don't go around to their local high school and shooting it up. So you don't really have any form of data to go ahead and say, oh, but on average, when black people go ahead and do this, they get higher sentences because there's not enough cases in which black people are going ahead and shooting up mass populations. So like, that's not...
That if a black person was to do that, he would be in jail for life.
That's very nice. That's very nice that you're doing hypotheticals.
The point is, and black people and white people commit crime.
I don't care. Look, I don't
the
care.
difference is the sentencing disparities. That's the point.
Yeah.
Okay. So I agree.
Point is the sentence disparities for black people and white people doing the same exact crime. That's the point.
Yeah, I
Okay,
think you
yeah.
could use mass shootings as an example, which is kind
Yeah,
of
but it's a bad it's a
even
bad
the
example.
majority of mass shootings are like committed by black
Sure. Okay, thank you. Stop.
Okay,
Hold on. I want Carolina to go.
The example.
I want. Hold on. I just want Carolina to be able to finish this exchange. So we're gonna Destiny. I want him to be able to respond, and then our friend Jill, the Silly Serious, who has lots of issues of what's been said so far. Really want her to get in as well. All right. So finish up this exchange.
Okay, so I totally agree that there's a sentencing disparity, but if you're going to go ahead and use mass shootings as one of the situations, then you have to know that's not a good situation. And when I go ahead and push back on it and say, you can say, oh, black people would be charged longer. That's great. I'm really happy that you're able to go ahead and think about the hypothetical, but there's not really enough data for you to go ahead and use it would be, because it's only would and not is.
I just gave you the data on the 1986 anti-drug.
Let her finish.
Drugs are not mass shootings. So next time, don't use a mass shooting as your data. Like, don't use it as your point, because I'm great. We could talk about the drug war, but you didn't bring up the drug war. You said bad day, and bad days are mass shootings. So I do agree that there's a sentencing disparity, but then also from there, if there's a sentence disparity, I agree. But then the whole issue, this became a whole conversation, is more about whether or not black people actually commit more crimes. I'm not disagreeing with even when they go ahead and do equivalent crimes, will they be charged for longer? Everybody knows that they will. But is the reason why there's more black people in jail? Obviously, there are some type of disparities because there are people in jail that are black for drug possession, which of course, if they were white, they most likely would not be there. But there's also, when it comes to violent crimes, they're arrested because they did commit a violent crime. Sometimes they haven't. That's why we have things like the Innocent Project. But in the case in which it's not applicable for Innocence Project, do black people not, or do they commit more violent crimes?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
But the point is that they don't commit it as much as white people do.
So white people commit more violent crimes per capita?
Yes, white people commit more violent crimes. The propaganda.
And are you able to hold on? And are you able to support that? Because a lot of the things that you say are not supportable. Do you have data to actually
propagandated in the media is that black people do it more than white people.
Okay, and I don't care about what propaganda says. I care about statistics. I'm not talking about.
Does not compare to the so-called black on black crime myth.
And am I talking about black on black crime? And what I'm talking about is statistics. And if you're going to say that white people do commit more violent crimes per capita, you need to go ahead and actually substantiate that with data beyond the fact that I thought in my head one day that this is true. So do you have any data to go ahead and substantiate that white people do commit more crimes?
Talks, yeah.
Okay.
I can do that.
Okay, so then I cannot wait for your source.
Great.
Yeah, cool.
Steven, then Joe.
I have no fucking idea what I'm supposed to respond to. I don't think at the end of the day, I don't think we disagree that much on what we're talking about.
Sure we.
Well, maybe with Legendary, but for everybody else, I don't think there's that much disagreement. I think I try to be very careful because of all the different communities I've interacted with and how we phrase things. And I feel like sometimes people phrase things like way too fucking strongly that it's effective within their own communities, but then outside their communities, they get really fucked. I know that like Fanatic got really mad earlier because of no, it wasn't Fanatic. It was
Gambit.
It was Gambit. I think you were saying that you wanted to have a conversation with me. You didn't want me to address other people's points. But like sometimes this type of rhetoric does make it out of hardcore left-leaning communities. And I think that electorally we saw that with like the most obvious example was the ACAB stuff related to the last election cycle, where this probably did have an actual impact on real voters because of this type of language. So that's the only reason why I try to couch my language very carefully and why I'm not like just keen to say like, oh yeah, all the problems right now that exist in the black community is all racism. Because it's just, I just don't like to say answers like that. That's all I was trying to say, but okay.
All right.
Yeah, I understand the nuance, which is why some people take effect with you just blanketly saying, yeah, black people commit more crime, right?
Sure, but I think I was pushed. I think I was pushed by someone here to give an answer to that. So it's like
you could have added some qualifiers, right?
Yeah, I tried it, but as soon as I say anything, there was like 35 people. There's I said
we're going to have a discussion about that. You said you were particularly mad when he doesn't qualify every statement, and then you made a categorical statement with no.
I mean, you just proved his point, right?
Yep.
Like, you couldn't add qualifiers because people kept.
Yeah, I tried to, but as soon as I said it, I got like 50 million white supremacist comments on it. But yeah, I understand. I agree. Yeah, qualifying things is good, of course.
Well, Steven, to be clear, there was only 12 people, all right? Get it right, all right?
I'm sorry. Well, you don't know if there was only 12 because there's a lot of systems and whatever the fuck now people are identifying as these days in Discords with DID is apparently the new trendy fucking thing to.
Oh god, are we ready? Don't go into the ID shit.
Boy. Thank you for that. Our good friend Jill the Solicitor, this is my first time seeing her lovely face on camera again in such a long time. Brand, thanks for coming back.
Hey, so I think, yeah, a lot of the points have been made, but it's just about specificity and argument, right? Because we can all agree on some level that, yes, of course, our justice system is racist, of course. But it's also about the goal of why we're saying that. What are we trying to achieve by identifying that? And if you have a goal to change the rates of prison populations or a goal to get rid of prisons altogether, then saying, oh, the justice system is racist doesn't actually help you. Of course, we agree with it, but it doesn't get us any further. So even things like identifying that the current opioid crisis is being treated differently, of course, but to just jump to race is certainly an element, but it's not the only element. Even the fact that opioids are prescription medication, which are provided most often through the healthcare system, means that instinctively people are going to treat this as a health crisis before they treat it as a criminal situation. Now, we can go back and forth again about whether or not that's because of race, and you can keep bringing it back to race, but it is important to hit those specific points because even race has a different meaning and understanding and consequence depending on location, depending on class, depending on gender. All of these things are going to play in. And if you're actually interested in ameliorative work or coming up with solutions, then making a broad moralistic statement actually won't get you any closer. And it is hard because we do live in this Twitter generation where you have a certain amount of characters to make your point. And we have like a lot of feelings and we want to create in-group affinities. But in terms of actually even analyzing policy, there's a difference between intention and legislation and the way that is actually executed in institutions. So if someone has a racist intention and then it is then voted on by a mass population who maybe aren't racist, but then it is executed through institutions which have a racial bias, all of those things are different and all of those things require different things to address them, to ameliorate them. So I think the point is that it's great to create an in-group affinity, to have these like bombastic statements, and they are true. No one's saying they're not true. Of course, there are racist elements to the justice system. Of course, that's what it was built on. You know, racism begets racism. You're not going to get away from that. You're not going to find anyone who disagrees with you. But it's also not necessarily useful in achieving our goals.
So what would you say would be the most useful way?
Right?
The crime. Yeah, no, the crime bill was.
Wait, let me push back, please. Because there's a bunch of things, right? Like, yeah, I think I just gotta disagree, like, with a bunch of what you're saying there, right? So first off, when it came to the war on drugs, like, most of that stuff wasn't like really voted on by like mass populations. Those things really were instituted at the federal level, right? Of Biden's crime bill, that wasn't like a state level thing where people were individually voting on that. That was something that happened like through Congress. So it's not mass people voting on those things. Number one. Number two, I want to point out, like, and I get it, like, where you want to say that race isn't the whole story, and it never is the whole story. But it is a really large, probably predominantly compounding factor. And so it feels to me very often, like whenever we're encountering these conversations, that there's very much this white presence that wants to dismiss the race element and start talking about, like, what's the actual intention behind it? And I'm not accusing you of being that person. Hold on, just let me finish. I don't interrupt. I'm muted. So yeah, I got you. Just so yeah. So I've been dealing with that a lot. So anyway, so it seems like there's always this issue where people want to dismiss the race element. And so when we look at like the crack cocaine disparity, right? So that thing was that thing was literally intentionally racist. When we find out that that crack and powder cocaine and the other cocaine are pharmacologically identical, yet there was a 100-to-1 disparity, we literally created a specific sentencing commission to determine whether or not these things should be held. And the sentencing commission approached Congress and told them time and time again, all of our previous studies were completely wrong. They literally fabricated studies in order to try to justify this, specifically because they recognized that this was a racial element. Then when we find out also that a large amount amounts of these drugs were literally pumped into these communities by our own government. When we start seeing these things, right, like the whole scandal that happened with Freeway Rick Ross and that whole situation, where there was literal government in putting this stuff into our communities, the idea that we then now, in hindsight, having all of this information, then are supposed to somehow start trying our best to distance the racial element, when we can see how insanely the racial element has been largely one of the most compounding factors for pretty much all legislation within this country, right? These battles have been ongoing. So then now when you're telling me, to me it sounds like you want me to revisit, or you want me to ignore the history, ignore the facts and details, and try to force me to focus to ignore the racial element when the racial element is literally the largest factor.
Can I ask one quick question? Oh, sorry. Just about the crack cocaine thing. Do you think there might have been one other reason why crack was focused on so much more than powder cocaine? Just curious.
Because they pumped it in black communities. What is it?
Yeah, I would say that was the reason.
Enlighten us.
You said it was pharmacologically identical.
Yeah, first of all, that's not true.
I mean, in terms of
that's absolutely true. I'm sorry.
Wait,
Please Google it for yourself. It's pharmacologically.
I don't need to Google it. I'm not 4 years old.
Okay, as somebody who's done fucking both, there is a drastic fucking difference between the effects.
Not pharmacologically.
You're talking about the effect.
Not pharmacologically.
Yeah, he's talking about the substance.
Well, no, pharmacologically, like the way you make crack, right, is that you do things to cocaine that change its pharmacological structure.
Yes, it means baking soda, but it doesn't change the. No. When you add baking soda in order to produce crack cocaine, it doesn't change the pharmacological effects of the drugs. It doesn't change it pharmacologically. You see, baking soda is not a pharmacological agent. So no, they are pharmacologically identical. Google it.
Do not. Even just because baking soda isn't a pharmacological agent doesn't mean that it doesn't have the ability to potentially transform things. You can go ahead and do a lot of different things to go ahead and synthesize new things.
Yes, I agree with you, Katarana, that sometimes introducing non-pharmacological agents can change the structure and things like that. However, we have our latest data from our very same sentencing commission, which clearly released all of their studies, which clearly said, and I quote, the drugs are pharmacologically identical.
Can I ask you a question? I'm just curious. Why is it that wealthy lawyers and shit that do powder cocaine, why don't they just buy crack if it's so much cheaper? Can you tell me why?
No, wait.
No, I really want to hear an answer to that question.
No, you were going to enlighten us. Wait, no, I want to hear what you were going to say earlier, because that question was just to be hyperbolic.
My understanding, about crack cocaine, my understanding is that the reason why people demonize, we can talk about racial aspects as well, but part of the reason why people hated crack cocaine in the US so much and why powder cocaine didn't have the same stigma attached to it was because crack cocaine is what was destroying so many different neighborhoods. That's what so many communities had so many issues with. Now, there might have been a racial element as well, and I'm sure that was a big part for a lot of people as well, but I think that the fact that crack was so much more present in poor communities also stuck out a lot more to people too. And that's one of the reasons why marijuana is so heavily stigmatized, even though it marijuana versus alcohol is not even close, but because marijuana is also present in these communities too.
Well, so no, that's not true. So what happened was before crack cocaine started even being introduced into black neighborhoods, it was first introduced into a couple of white neighborhoods, and it was pretty destructive within those neighborhoods, but it didn't change anything. It was literally the fact that it was associated with the black element, and because of the fact that we passed federal legislation, literally we created a war on drugs. There became large amounts of media pushes specifically demonizing the drug, and that's what had to do.
No, hold on. Yes, you don't have to demonize crack, my dude. I don't know what level of wokeness you're on, but crack does really fucked up things to people and makes people do really fucked up things. Okay, so I don't know what.
Listen, I'm very well aware of the effects of crack. My father used to be a crackhead.
Okay,
I understand it. But the distinction I'm making that you felt like you needed to interject for, the distinction that I'm making is that even though these drugs can be incredibly destructive, that's not what affects the legislation. It's the media slant on these things. It's once the media starts demonizing these things, because what we also find out is drugs that aren't as destructive can be demonized if they are associated with specific elements. For example, marijuana was heavily affiliated with Hispanics in the very beginning, and that was what they used, and that association is what caused them to demonize that specific drug. So very often, when drugs are associated with those things, then that's what affects them. LSD is incredibly destructive. It's not a positive thing. PCP is incredibly destructive.
Wait, hold on. I don't want to talk about drugs anymore.
But because of the fact that those drugs were more common amongst Caucasian hippies, they did not receive nearly the same amount of public backlash as crack cocaine did.
Okay.
Or marijuana did.
Quick question. Can I please get the sources? I've been waiting for sources.
Source. What do you need a source from me for?
No, sorry, from Legend.
Oh. So I had to mute Legend because of the whole air conditioning thing. I'll unmute you. And then we gotta go to Joe. Go ahead, say what you gotta say. We gotta go to Joe.
Yep, I got him right here.
Okay, post them in VC chat so I can actually look them over and then we can continue.
Okay. If you can mute yourself. Okay, we'll take your time then.
I got him on my phone.
Okay, well, we'll work on that. And maybe you guys can DM each other.
Okay,
send them to me on Instagram and I'll post them for you.
All right, so yeah, aggravated assault.
I don't want to hear you read them. I want to read them myself.
Okay, all right, we'll get to that. All right, cool. All right, let's go to Joe.
Yeah, Fanatic, I just want to say very emphatically, and I understand especially when this kind of pushback is coming from someone that looks like me, that it instinctively sounds like I'm saying minimize race or distance race from the issue, and that is 100% never what I'm saying. Race plays a significant role. It does not play the only role, and race integrates with other things. And that it's not to say that those things are more important, it's say that those things have an interaction. And to minimize the understanding simply to race is to erase part of the story. So it is important that black racist institutions have meant, and that over time, black people's ability to vote has been hampered. It is important that over time, black families have been put into worse socioeconomic situations. These things interact, and that interaction is important in terms of how that results in different kind of legislation, different kind of policing, etc., etc. So I'm never saying, oh, don't focus on race. What I'm saying is that when you say that this was done, that the people who legislated this did it with a racist intent, and everyone who voted, and no, you're right, America isn't a direct democracy, but representatives vote on behalf of people. So it actually isn't one person making this law, okay? Congress still votes. Yeah.
But that's not true.
That is true, by the way. That is exactly how our system works.
So there are so one of the largest studies ever done to date, like clearly demonstrated with that if you have the bottom 90 percentile of people that want something and you have the top 10 percentile of people that want something, unless it's during an election cycle, the top 10 percentile will always get the thing that they want.
That is absolutely not true.
Outside of election cycles, I think it's Gillen's and someone.
Yeah, this study's been debunked like a million times. This is one outlier. It has been. It's such a stupid and horribly. It has been.
It's please show me the debunking of it, please, because that study seems pretty accurate to me. I read it over myself.
Let Joe please respond.
Agreeing with me on this actually doesn't harm your point. It just means that you have to do more analysis, which is...
Oh, no, I agreed with you overall. I did.
No, but what I'm saying is, like, even if you get every... Even if every single person in the Congress is voting, maybe they're not voting because they are racist, but maybe the framing of the initial bill was racist to the point that it convinced them of something, right? That doesn't mean that they themselves are racist, but the way that it was framed allowed them to agree to racist legislation. So now you have to do more analysis about how it was framed. Is it that these things are running wild in criminal neighborhoods and making things more criminal, and they don't realize that implicitly criminality is just a dog whistle for blackness, you know? So what I'm saying is, it doesn't help to simplify it to the point of everyone is racist, because those things can be racist. That understanding can be racist, and the actors themselves cannot have racist intent. And the reason it's important to make that distinction is because if you're looking at changing things and ensuring this doesn't happen in the future, or decriminalizing drugs, or getting rid of the prison system, it's important to understand what motivates people to allow for these kind of systems to proliferate and continue to exist. Does that make sense?
I totally agree with all that, but I again, it feels like this is a straw man. I don't remember any of us literally arguing that it was only race. Like, that's the problem. That's not our argument. And it feels so foreign to me when I feel like people keep wanting to inject this idea of, like, I want to make sure that you understand race isn't the only factor. Like, I'm a pretty well-read guy on this topic. I obviously wouldn't be saying it's just race. So I don't know. It feels like when you go out, I feel like when you go out of your way to indicate that, it's almost as if you believe someone said that, when clearly none of, at least I don't remember anyone making that statement.
Okay, I feel like we got dragged in here partially because you guys were saying that the war on drugs was 100% about race, and I disagreed with that, and that's one of the reasons we're in here. But I'm glad we're here now. I don't know who moved where, but we all seem to be standing relatively close. We all did. I don't remember. I try to stay away from like the super. I try to stay away from the super bait talk. Somebody else asked me a question about it, and that's why we're here. But I'm glad we're all standing together now. Okay, it feels like one of those we're one of the Jubilee videos, and we all moved to the same side. So good job, guys.
So it seems. It seems okay. It seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong. It seems like right now it's just a question of degrees, right? And Fanatic seems to think that race just had more of an impact than Destiny implied.
Well, no, I think it's a question of rhetoric. That's the main fucking criticism. Destiny was talking earlier about like how I don't know, he thinks ACAB affected voters at the last election, and he was talking about how framing these conversations purely on the basis of race like is unhelpful when you're on a platform that's speaking to a whole load of people who are going to be like, well, I support this policy, but I'm not fucking racist. Like they're going to disconnect and not want to listen to you. And I see where he's coming from with that, but I also see where the other people are coming from, that like the race portion is an incredibly like large part of that, and that's what they wanted to be talking about at the time. I don't really know how you kind of resolve this question of rhetoric other than to just be like, well, like is Destiny's criticism of the other chaps in this chat using talking about that in this context in that manner, is that bad rhetoric? Is that like really unhelpful? I don't know if it is, in all honesty.
Azzy, and then
just to respond to Vivian, I think the whole reason, and just the whole reason this was brought up, because we were talking about we premised I think Prime premised the question on, is there an attack on the white family, and we were talking about how the use of the issue of drugs in America was used to attack the black family disproportionately, and then Destiny said, I don't really want to say something, I don't want to make and then we got into this where he used, well, I wouldn't say drugs would be used, it's only against black people, and we said, oh, surely, definitely, that is exactly what it is, because when you look at the numbers over time, they have it's almost I'm quoting an article right now, I posted it in VC chat. Although whites are relatively untouched by anti-drug efforts compared to blacks, it's by the I don't remember the name, but the Human Rights Watch, humanrightswatch.org. You can check the link in VC.
Sure, yeah.
There's the idea that is accepted widely across the board that black people were almost pinpoint targeted, and it's because of social things that were against. They did not like black or brown people. The cops themselves. I'm
not disagreeing with any of that. Like the question is of rhetoric, of like looking at these
it's not bad.
Wait,
it's true rhetoric.
It's so the question is, right, like when you bring up these kinds of issues and you're talking about them in front of an audience, right, a political audience, like is it best to frame it as purely a racial issue, or is it better to try and frame it in some other fashion so as to advance your cause?
No, because that would be and that's what I was trying to say. It's kind of no. I just want to, because that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to get to. It's tiptoeing around the issues of, especially of the topic at hand. We're talking about racial dating, racial marriage. We're literally talking about this. We're not gonna try to frame it for another conversation just to make people feel good.
If I was like a white conservative listening to this, right?
That's what I want to. That's what I want to.
Just imagine for a second, right? I'm a white conservative. I'm listening to this. I'm like, I'm not a racist person. Okay, I don't think of myself as racist or whatever, but I support this policy. And you're like, well, this policy is just racist. Then the implication, at least to that person, is that they are a racist for supporting this thing. And
So
it's
let me respond to this. Let me respond to this.
How do you reach out to those people who are listening? Yeah.
Okay, let me respond to this because this is what y'all are doing. What y'all are really saying when y'all say Rhetoric and all this other bullshit. What you're really saying is I don't think white people will go along with this. That's what you're saying. Like point blank period. That's
what Destiny's saying. Wait.
I want to finish. The problem is what I've noticed, and this is pure anecdotal, but I talk to a ton of people, and I know a ton of people that also talk to a ton of people. It's white liberals that make these claims. The conservative that you're talking about is CTV that didn't come in here. They're saying, yo, this shit's racist. The conservatives are all on board with, hey, this is racially intent. It's white liberals that come on and say, well, you know what? We got to think about our rhetoric. We don't want white people to feel bad and understand that they voted for racist legislation. It's white liberals.
No, you can't use CTV as an example. No, you can't use CTV as an example of what the typical conservative.
Okay, wait. Let me ask you a question, Vivian. Vivian, let me ask you a question. Would you think CTV and Redneck fit the profile for the people you think that would watch this and say it wasn't racist? Because both of them say the war on drugs was racist. It's you and Destiny that are saying, you know what, maybe it's not racist, right? That's my problem.
You're tiptoeing. I mean, you're not doing it, Vivian.
I'm not.
Sorry, point of clarification. I am Latinx. Thank you.
I'm not doing that at all. I personally don't give a fuck. I think that these issues should absolutely be talked about and framed in the context of race, okay? I'm just trying to communicate the point that Destiny made in order to direct the argument and the conversation towards something that is more fucking germane to what has been said.
Germane?
Right? Which is like germane.
Okay.
Yeah,
come on, hurry up. Then then after that I want to go to Joe and Catarana, right?
That is more germane to what has been said, right? Which is essentially that there are a sizable base of people out there who don't think of themselves as racist, who do support these policies, who might be switched off by it being framed purely as a racial issue. And I personally don't give a fuck about those people. I don't think they're going to come around to our side anyway. But
do you think race is the biggest factor, or would you point to something else?
Do I think race is the biggest factor? I think
yes,
race was definitely the biggest factor at the beginning.
Okay, so hold on, wait. So you're saying that there's a problem and we should not talk about this problem in terms of its biggest contributing factor?
This is a nonsense fucking straw man, because not only did you cut me off halfway through fucking
get fucked, Vivian. Welcome to the Destiny Club.
It's fucking actually insane that you would like turn around and say that afterwards. No, I'm not saying that we shouldn't talk about it in a racial framing. In fact, explicitly prior to your interjection, I said that I think personally we should be talking about it in a racial fucking framing. Okay, what I said was perhaps there are other I think Destiny's point, right, which is pertinent, is germane, okay, is that perhaps there are other rhetorical techniques that we can use by introducing other issues in combination with the conversation about race in order that we can make this appeal to people who are like, I'm not racist, but I support this policy, right? Without going, hey, actually, you know what? You are fucking racist because you support this policy, right? Because it doesn't help. It doesn't turn them on to the...
We didn't say the people who supported are racist.
Sorry, we just got to move things along, right? We can't be here forever. Joe, then Catarana, and then Legend.
I'll be so quick, Catarana. I just want to say that I don't take the rhetoric argument at all. I take the argument of solutions, and I don't think synthesizing something down to like a single point is actually helpful at all. It's very different to be black in LA than it is to be in Texas, than it is to be in Idaho. People in those areas have different experiences. So GSU Gambit, even when you say something like, do you think that race is the main factor? Well, it really depends. You're not being specific enough. And for me, when I'm looking at solutions, I'm aiming for as much specificity as possible.
Can you give me a context? Wait, hold on. Wait. I'm gonna let you go next. Okay. Can you give me a context in which race is not the biggest factor when it comes to the war on drugs? What context?
I don't know. This isn't my area, but I'm saying.
That's what I'm. Wait,
there's no distinction.
Yo, Joe. I mean, I could, but I don't.
Listen,
I'm voting for this shit.
Sorry. Let Joe respond to what she was said. Joe, please.
Gambi and Fanatic, I don't want you to think that I am claiming that the drug war isn't racist. I'm not claiming that at all. What I'm saying is, if we are looking to make ameliorative moves to change the racialized elements of our justice system, which disproportionately affect black people and black men specifically, then it helps us to be as specific as possible, to work out what race is disguised as, how race interacts with other factors. And I think sometimes we enter these conversations by saying, this is racist, and that's the end of the conversation, because then it gets caught up in you fighting with people who go, no, it's not racist. No, just be more specific. I understand you can't do that on Twitter, but here we have a little space for back and forth.
Well, sure, but here's the problem. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No. Go ahead.
So here's the problem. Okay, so here's the problem. It's when someone starts out the sentence by saying things like, no, I don't think the war on drugs was aimed at blacks. So now at this point, we do have to focus on these things. Typically, I am pretty nuanced in these conversations. It's not like everything's racist, just racist. Racist is the whole end all be all thing, right? What ends up happening is when someone makes ridiculous, dismissive statements, then it feels like, no. Now I gotta drive this thing home to make sure that the racial component is well and fully understood. If you want to get into deeper understanding, I totally get, like I mentioned, the welfare queen thing that I keep bringing up, right? Like, no, it's not just that the individuals wanted to cut racism. I get that, like, a lot of times people can there's a bunch of cultural misconceptions that accompany these things. And so then a lot of times we'll make these things moral issues. Like, oh, people who do drugs are morally reprehensible people. And so then as a result of that, then now you can demonize these individuals. And so then that furthers the legislation. However, I would say that you start making it a health issue and no longer a moral issue once the issue becomes Caucasian. Because then at that point now the intention is to rephrase the issue such that now that we can change it. So again, there are layers and there are depth to it, but before we can even get to the other layers, we need to first identify the fact that race is one of the largest compounding factors that it sounded like Destiny was denying originally.
But Fanatic...
Stop. Joe.
But Fanatic, like, I would argue in the same way. I agree, totally. Race is definitely a component in that. But prescription medication is a middle class issue. People who can afford healthcare, people who can afford to get prescriptions, that is when it comes across. It's not, as was brought up before, it's not this rural, I don't know American language, hillbilly sort of stuff, like people out in the Ozarks. That's not the people who switched policy around. So, like... Hillbilly. I don't know the language, I'm sorry.
No, you're right, don't distract, go.
So the point is, yes, race is obviously an issue, but so is class, because when it is lower class white people, and I'm not a class reductionist, but when it is lower class white people, it's not shifted. When the drugs are obtained illegally rather than through prescription, it's not shifted. So there are compounding elements, and understanding and separating those, race can still be the biggest part. There you go, Fanatic. Race can still be the biggest part. I don't have a problem with that. But what I'm saying is, it cannot be simplified down to just race, because it is not helpful.
But okay, so I agree
as
with
long
that,
as nobody makes the claim.
Right. Number one, as long as Destiny's not making that claim, then we probably wouldn't be down this rabbit hole. Secondly, I disagree with one of the statements that you're saying. Because again, when we do see lower class white people experience specific issues, we find that the government and the country is really, really behind. It galvanizes the country into action when there's a white issue. For example, when a tornado goes through Appalachia and starts bodying white folks, you find all sorts of sympathy. They generate X amounts of dollars and so on and so forth. But when Hurricane Katrina affects African Americans, then you get presidential flyovers. You get you get people not responding for 5-6 days. You got all these niggas just chilling in domes, so on and so forth. So when you find like I said, when there were drug issues, crime when it was affecting lower class, because obviously we know that there's obviously the intersectionality between crime. I'm sorry, there's a higher correlation between crime and poverty. When poverty was largely affecting Caucasian Americans, then our penitentiary system was just that. It was penitentiary. It stopped being penitentiary and became more of a prison issue. Once crime became a black issue. Once it became black, it was like, no. We're not trying to rehabilitate you. We're not trying to rehabilitate you. We're not worried about recidivism. All that we care about is putting these niggas away and putting them away as long as we can do it. So there is very much, we can see time and time again, as the issues, regardless of class, you will see time and time again, as the issues affect white Americans, the attitude towards them shift. Furthermore, I want to point out to you, it's not just a class issue, because there are plenty of studies that demonstrate the fact that the more wealthy an individual is, the more likely they are to experience racism. Because what you'll find is that very much African Americans might live within their own little communes or in their own little cities where they're not experiencing the same, where very often the black kids are going to all black schools, so they're not dealing with it from a teacher. They're not, so on and so forth. But whereas when you have wealthy black individuals, now they're going to all white schools, and now they're starting to deal with the racism issues. So again,
But Fanatic, that's exactly the point I'm making, right? Because class and race in that circumstance have a different interaction. So what I'm saying is when you look specifically at interactions between different factors and you're specific about it, you will see that there are different outputs. I totally agree with you. I'm not a class reductionist. I don't think everything comes back to class. What I'm saying is you need to look at how things interact in specific circumstances if you want tangible ways to address it.
Yeah, but no one here, again, just no one here wasn't doing that.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I gotta push back on the fucking Appalachian thing. Like, I don't know how it is now, but like Appalachia is like as an example of like white folks getting more assistance seems fucking bizarre to me. Like, wasn't it that didn't the Black Panthers like literally have to team up with like an Appalachian advocacy group because Appalachians have been so fucking disadvantaged for so long and like basically weren't even seen as white for like ages? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
no,
so
never point. No, there's
I think
never
it's
point
also.
they weren't seen as white.
I think it's also. I think it's also
Steve-
like really crazy that like if you think of like what's the difference between crack and opiates, it's race. Like I think that is
No one
just
said
so.
that.
No, we didn't say.
Hold on, shut the fuck up. Hold on, Mr. Fanatic, answer this question. Did you not earlier say that the largest component of how we police drugs in the United States is race?
Sure, I said that.
Okay, thank you. So when you look at the difference between like
that's not the same thing as saying that there's no difference between crack and opioid.
Steven.
When you try to pretend that the difference between how we address opioids versus how we address crack, when you try to say that the reason is the driver behind that is race, when most people think of crack, they think of like drug dealers and people like ruining their lives and blah blah blah, versus people think of like opioids and they think of grandma and grandpa like ODing on painkillers. I just think that to say like, well, race is obviously the hugest factor. I think there's a lot of other, I don't know how you would quantify like what factor is bigger. There's just so much more that goes into this than rather just making it like, oh, well, race is the hugest thing. And that's why, they love white people and that's why we're supporting it. Like, and this is why, to go back to my original thing, if we look at like meth in the Midwest for so long, I don't think that those just being white people drove people to accept like fucking meth. Or if there were these certain types of drug problems that were affecting like lower class, like hillbilly or redneck white people, I don't think that would galvanize support across the country for this particular drug. I think that in this particular case, I think that class influences this quite a bit as well as like how these drugs come about.
Wait, Destiny, that was me that made the claim that you're going against. I asked you.
No,
why
Fanatic
do you
just
think
agreed
that
with
the
what I
police...
just said.
No, remember when I was mad? I said specifically, why do you think the policing is different on people that are addicted to opioids versus people that were addicted to crack in the 80s? That was the question that I asked.
Sure, but it seems like Fanatic is agreeing with that as well, and he keeps reiterating the point that race is the largest determining. Okay, I don't know who the fuck agrees with that. Never mind. I don't know. There's like 12 different fucking. Okay, everything is a mischaracterization.
Yeah, I know it is a mischaracterization, and I'll clarify for you really quickly. Again, the difference, the thing that I was directly making the comparison was from crack cocaine to powder cocaine. That was what I felt like was the most obvious racially different thing because the drugs are pharmacologically identical.
But there's also another massive difference between crack and powder cocaine. And that's who does them and how they affect neighborhoods.
Yes, white people do powder cocaine and black people do crack. That's the point.
Oh, no.
That's the point. What? Yes, the difference is who does them. Whiwhite people do powder cocaine.
Do you think that? Do you think that if wealthy black people were doing powder, or were doing, if wealthy black people were doing powder cocaine at like concerts and shit, and poor white people were doing crack cocaine in neighborhoods, do you think that in the United States the drug like enforcement would be reversed? That we would be like demonizing? Yes. Okay, I just totally disagree. I don't know where to go.
Okay, I get it. I know you want to disagree because this is probably something that you haven't studied, because you haven't studied this in depth. So again, I love it how you are like you want to introduce this hypothetical that we can't prove, and in your mind it's like, yeah, see, I got him here, and it's like, no, this is crazy. No, so what you're
I'm not saying I got you. I disagree.
What you're asking me to do is you're asking me to entertain the notion that that race isn't the largest component here when race very clearly is.
I wasn't asking that at all.
We see this. We see this time and time again. So obviously, the thing that I'm basing my information on is the thing that I'm basing my information on is that when we look at like marijuana and we see that blacks make up 74% of all marijuana charges, even though whites use it, blacks and whites use it at the exact same rates. Or when we find that when it came to even cocaine usage, overall cocaine usage, crack cocaine usage, whites make up 66% of all crack cocaine usage, yet blacks make up 74%, right? Like when we start seeing these sort of ridiculous numbers, when we find that in similarly situated situations, African Americans are charged with higher mandatory minimum sentences than white people. So yes, your question, I'm sorry, maybe it sounds to me like the framing you're asking me is, if the situations were reversed, would they be identical, or would they be inverted? And the answer is no, because a lot of the factor here is race.
Yeah, the framing of your question sounds like, is it race or class that's more of a motivating factor? Because you specifically asked if rich, you specifically said if rich blacks did this and poor whites did this, do you think something would be different? If the primary reason for the discrepancy is race, the answer is no, and that's why Fanatic is saying no. That's why I would say no.
Sure,
the only way you could justify saying yes is if you think class is a bigger component than race.
Sure. When I ask who's doing it, I don't necessarily mean just wealthy or poor. I'm talking about like the neighborhoods that these people live in, right? Typically, it is the case. Or I don't know if fucking Fanatic's gonna disagree on this. Typically, it is the case that wealthy people that do wealthy drugs, typically don't have like these these types of drugs aren't the kind that lead to destructive things in neighborhoods. Usually. That's what I'm saying. That's why. Why do I don't know why people keep. I don't know how to say. I don't know how to. I don't know. No. Hold on. None of you have ever done any drugs. None of you have ever done any drugs in your entire fucking life. If you're gonna come here and unironically say like, oh, crack cocaine and powder cocaine, because I know you haven't. Because I know people that do drugs. Because I do drugs, and no fucking sane human fucking being that does powder cocaine. Like, oh, you got some fucking crack, bro? We can fucking do that. It's just the same as fucking powder cocaine. Like, it's just not that. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about when you say that. Like, holy shit. Like, what I'm saying is that all I'm saying is that if there was a bunch of white people that were doing crack cocaine in their neighborhoods and they were going out and they were fucking robbing stores and they were doing crazy fucking shit and everything in their neighborhoods was getting fucked up as a result of powder cocaine, okay? And black people were doing like crack cocaine, but it wasn't having any of these negative impacts or whatever. I don't think that things would look the same. I'm saying that the effects that these drugs had on neighborhoods was vastly different. Now, there obviously is a racial component. There's a racial component to everything, especially when you look at the fact that this was a war on drug shit is in the fucking 70s, of course. I'm just saying that to boil it all down to just race and then to sit here and come out and because what happens is when you get so committed to these narratives, you end up unironically arguing on a podcast stupid fucking shit like crack and powder cocaine are the same fucking thing. When every fucking person in their life that has any interaction with drugs whatsoever would tell you that is obviously not true.
So obviously, listen, I get it. I don't know why your panties are all in a bundle over this. So the actual facts of the matter. So the actual facts of the matter are, as I've said over and over and over again, I'm pretty careful with my words, and so I'm going to stand by this. And I challenge any person to correct me on this because I know I'm right, and I'm willing to bet literally whatever amount of money you want to bet. Pharmacologically, the drugs are identical. Now, because of the fact that people tend to do them different ways, that produces the different effect. But pharmacologically, they are identical, and you can choose to do crack cocaine in various different ways. You can smoke it. You can actually snort crack cocaine. You'd have to grind it and so on and so forth. But the fact of the matter is, pharmacologically, the drugs are identical. It's just the way that we do them that produces the different results. So you can keep getting hung up on this fact if you want to, but the fact of the matter is they are pharmacologically identical. Furthermore, when we're talking about these differences with these drug outcomes, there are plenty of studies that literally clearly demonstrate that even if you control for specific counties, so you take issues of higher class, you still find the same disproportionate sentencing of African Americans as opposed from white people. These things do not disappear with class or county or region or anything else.
Okay, great. So hold on. We're gonna go to Caroline in a second. Joe, do you have a direct response to that?
Yeah, my direct response to that is that's just not how studies work. In terms of, no one is saying race is somehow, like, you can't separate these variables. Race, location, economic status, policing, all of these things have an interaction, which is why when Destiny is making a point about, do you think that if neighborhoods full of white people were doing cocaine and there was high crime rates and high policing, that race would be the most important factor? It's to do with the fact that these variables link together to create causation. It's not just one thing causing something. So you actually do agree, Fanatic. it's just being phrased differently. And the thing that is being said is that, because it's race itself it can be boiled down to race being apparent and widespread across the entire system. Yes, correct. It's a racist country with a racist justice system. But when you are now, because you're now talking about two different things. You're talking about sentencing, you're talking about policing, you're talking about whether the war on crime is racist, you're talking about a bunch of different things. And once again, saying that race is the key and only variable. That's what just as you're saying that it sounds to me like I'm saying race doesn't matter. When you're speaking, it sounds like you're saying that no matter where you look, no matter what you test for, no matter what variables you change, race is always going to be the variable that matters. And that's just, it's not how studies work.
Not the.
Okay. Leave it alone. You cut it, right? And we'll go to Katarana. Katarana, remember when Joe said it was going to be brief? All right, go ahead.
So, just quickly, two things. Destiny, you said that crack cocaine has the ability to destroy neighborhoods more than the other, but that really just seems like an appeal to nature kind of argument. And I don't know what exactly does it mean, via metrics to destroy a neighborhood. What does it mean that crack will destroy it more than heroin if it was go ahead and used throughout the whole neighborhood? I don't think it just really seems like a my neighborhood. I'm scared.
Well, so wait, hold on. Well, I can qualify that. So my understanding is that crack it's cheaper. It's usually cut with other things as well, and that because of the easy availability of it, because of the fact that it can be cut with other more dangerous stuff as well, there's a higher proclivity, and because of the way the high is on crack versus cocaine, there's a higher proclivity to become addicted to it, and that the abuse of it leads to more you could say criminal behavior, so stealing from people or committing crimes to get drugs or whatever. That's generally falls in line with crack versus.
They were selling it. There's a difference. People's livelihoods are based on something that no.
I just wanted to know more. What did it mean to destroy a neighborhood? I feel still if we go ahead and check the difference between how likely are you to go ahead and rob a store if you're on meth versus heroin versus crack versus I'm not sure. I'm sure it's able to be quantified, but I'm not sure if crack necessarily would cause you to want to rob a store more than the other.
I guess just on that qualifying thing, just real quick. Well, hold on, just responding to her point exactly. So so we keep bringing up this idea of pharmacological similarity. So let's say that we were to invent a drug. And this is just the only thing my mind can think of right now. I'm sorry, okay? Let's say that we had things called rectal alcohol bubbles or something, okay? And you shoved a little bubble thing up your ass and it blew up and there was alcohol.
Diarrhea?
Now, pharmacologically, this might be the exact same thing as alcohol that you drink out of a bottle, but rectally, you absorb substances way quicker. It's very easy to die of alcohol poisoning if you mess around with really fucky shit like that. So we can say all day, well, pharmacologically, these things are identically the exact same thing. We can break it down all the time. It's sure, but one, other things can be cut into these drugs that make them more addictive. And two, the method and mode in which you use them can dramatically impact the way that your receptors interact with these things, so whether the dopamine high you get off it, and the actual physiological biochemical response your body has while consuming these drugs. So, okay, I'm done.
Sure, I agree with all those statements, Stephanie.
Okay.
These are more.
This was just a question. I just wanted to understand what did you mean. Okay, so now going back to earlier, Legend gave me his data.
Legend. I know.
Yeah, Legend gave me his data, in which case we'll go ahead and talk about it. So his thing was that white people go ahead and perform a violent crime per capita more than black people. When I went ahead and looked at the data as given by the FBI, it only said that white people have more liquor charges, DUIs, drunkenness in public, and arson, which are white stuff. And at the end of the day, it's not really the whole 1350. It's 13% of black people end up committing 26.9% of the crime. So essentially, at the end of the day, I don't know, Legend, exactly where were you getting the data of which white people commit more violent crimes, because it just seems like white people like to be drunk in public. Now, could you go ahead and...
Can I steal man Legend?
Okay, so it is a crime, and I didn't say it's not. I'm aware it's a crime, but it's not a violent crime.
The white woman is on your side, Prime.
No. Legend, you about to get some white help. All right, I hope you can accept that. Legend. Joe, please.
Unconditional love. Unconditional love, right there.
You should have married her.
I don't know about how, in terms of research and how statistics can be reported on this, it's going to be really difficult because it's going to relate to arrests, charges, etc.
Exactly.
And we also know that police are racist institutions. Once again, we have the intersection of class and race, meaning that there is more likely to be violence and the threat of violence in more densely populated black neighborhoods. There's more likely to be a need for a second economy in black predominant neighborhoods. So I don't think it's fair to, the way that is presented is to suggest that the way that it's presented by white people is to say that black people are more criminal. And I think the point that Legendary is maybe trying to make is that white people can commit just as many crimes as black people. They're just not in the same circumstances. And even if they were, racist institutions like policing and justice system would mean that the statistics would always skew to make it look like white people commit less crime than black people.
Yeah, nobody's been disagreeing with that. Everybody said that exact same thing pretty much.
Yeah.
Like, Legend was the one who said that white folks commit more per capita violent crime than
Yeah, so that's what so I'm aware of like how.
Didn't say nothing about per capita.
Yeah, I think
No,
so.
I very specifically asked you if it was per capita.
Okay, let Katarana speak. She's been waiting for so long. Stop! Don't.
Okay, they can talk about nonsense. Okay, go ahead.
So when I asked, I did say, is it per capita that white people commit more violent crime? And you said yes. And then you went and found your best stats.
Run the tape. Watch the rebroadcast.
Okay, hold on.
Why would we care about not per capita? Why would we even care?
Of course,
She
if we're gonna go ahead.
She said something, and then Joe got to speak, and I'm trying to respond.
Okay,
She's
yeah,
speaking
that's
again, so.
Go crazy, go off, son.
Go ahead, Legend, please.
Right, so first off, in order to come up with a solution to a problem, you have to know exactly what the problem is. I think the whole point is,
guys, what the fuck did I come down here to fish for again? I needed something. Why did I go through all this to fish these?
with that answer to that problem, we have to identify what's the major source of that problem, and it was race. I gave you the FBI statistics or whatever, and I just went to
I didn't pull the numbers out of. I didn't pull the numbers out of my ass. I'm aware, but I gave it to
I
me.
didn't interrupt you. Thank you. Violent crimes, white people, 241,000. Black Americans, 153,000. So, and it also goes to the point of what I don't know what this lady was saying, but yeah, the numbers, those numbers can be.
That's Miss Joe to you, right?
Due to the media and all the other factors or whatever. Now, I just wanted to point this out, and then I'm done. So, Payne Madden, suspected white supremacist, went into a black neighborhood in Louisville, found an 8-year-old black girl playing in her yard, raped the child. It was a black girl. That could have been your child. He raped the child. That's violent to me. Bit a chunk of her face off, hit her in the head with a shovel, fracturing her skull.
Okay, we got it. We don't have to
charges
like
are
go
going to be dismissed, and he will walk free because they said he is too mentally incompetent to stand trial. This is him.
Okay.
Wait,
Okay.
you won't walk
So
free if that's the
He'll
case.
probably be committed.
let's go. So let's talk about a couple things. You didn't give this to me, so
It's what they always do to white people. Commit.
Okay. Hold on. So first of all, you didn't.
And I
give
only
this to me,
mentioned
so-
that to go to the point about when white people do it and black people do the same crime, they have mental illness. They don't
Okay,
go to, that's why.
So first of all, this is not anecdotal, but like you're literally cherry picking data. So like, congrats. You literally went and found one particular one and like looked and typed in white
many.
person. One person does
wait a
something to a
minute.
black person and specifically doesn't go to jail for it, and then you read off your
One of
favorite
many.
one. Congrats.
One of many instances.
Congrats. I'm very, very proud of you.
There's plenty of data
Also,
to support this.
there's
Cut around. This
plenty of
isn't a
data
cherry
to support.
pick. This is a.
Stop. As you're next, any which way.
Yeah, like you literally went and what we were talking about was per capita, and I don't care about your specific detail because what we were talking about was. I asked you, do white people commit more violent crimes per capita? And you said, yeah, hold on, let me go get data. And all I see is that per capita, white people like to get drunk more per capita and get arrested for it. So, wow, we all got to confirm exactly what we knew. Woohoo!
Looking at the same
But like,
stats, you can see that. I sent it to you.
I have very good eyeballs.
Violent
I
crimes.
saw
You
it.
talked about violent crimes. I specifically
And I
said
said
violent
per
crimes.
capita. Of course, they commit more violent crimes. There's 5 times more. Of course, they commit more violent crimes. If you have 5 times more white people than you have black people, then if you don't do per capita, of course, it's going to end up showing that they do more of, because literally for every single thing on here, except for murder, it's white people that do more of it. Like per capita. No, sorry, not even per capita, but like, of course it's gonna be more. It's 5 times more.
Murder,
Like,
another
congrats.
violent crime that you wanted to point out. Interesting.
I said except for murder, where black people do more of it, so you fucking did it, hun. Okay? But like what I'm saying is, of course it's gonna be that they do more of it because there's 5 times more. Numbers go brr. I'm so fucking proud of you. But what I'm talking about is per capita, and what we're able to see is that per capita, of course there's gonna be more black people in jail because per capita, there's more crimes. Now, do I say, am I a race realist? No, I'm not a fucking race realist. I'm aware of socioeconomic things, but it also doesn't change that per capita, black people end up committing more crimes. So just because you go and find a specific situation where someone gets committed doesn't change the fact that per capita, black people commit more violent crimes. It also
Is
doesn't.
an example of many.
I'm great. So you find 100, but there's also 300 million people in this
More
fucking
than
country.
100.
So
More than 100.
1,000 out of
100.
300 million. It's not a fucking trend. Like what
It
are
is
we
a
doing?
trend. It may not
I'm
be
sorry.
a trend for you,
You know
probably
what- you know
because
what-
you
you know
for
what
white
I know-
daddy in the background.
Okay. I don't know what you said, but you know what those numbers that you're working with mean? It means I'm dealing
It's
with
probably
fucking
not a trend
photons.
for you because you're waiting
Okay,
for white
okay,
daddy.
stop interrupting, please.
Excuse me, have you seen anybody that I've ever engaged in coitus with? Who said they were white? I just said they weren't black. They could be anything. I could be anything.
Not
They
black
could be
could mean
anything.
white. Not black could mean white.
Congrats, but they're not. Like,
Exactly.
I don't know. Who the fuck are you talking to?
Go
Am I
ahead.
am I your friend? Do I look like your friend to you? Do I
wanna be your
text you
friend.
talk about my
I don't
sex?
want to be your friend.
Guys,
Bitch, I won't be your fucking
okay,
friend.
all right, we got it.
What the fuck
We
you
got
talking
it.
about?
We got it.
Don't come at me with this. Oh,
We
you only
got
date
it.
white guys thing. Because I
All
never
right.
said what race of the person was.
Okay, all right.
Guess what? I'm okay.
It'll be, all right. Colorado will end this. She'll send us a detailed report of everyone she's been with, all right? Physical statistics and everything, all right? Thank you. Real appreciate that. All right, moving on. Azzy.
Black to white will be
I think I
100
said
to
this
1.
before
Or
to
white to
Joe
black.
about when we were talking about the dating issue, and I was talking about we can't. There's a problem when we have these discussions in an academic sense because we're always like Destiny trying to deconstruct it and try to figure out how we should frame it, but we never put it back together and to figure out the real issue of things, which is what Legend was saying. If you bring it back together and you see the correlation of how they're specifically targeting people, policing, housing, where they live, how much money they make, the attitudes of the institutions. There's always some underlying thing. You know what that underlying thing is, boys and girls? Brown and black people, hey, maybe even low-income white people too. We're not saying they don't get arrested, but unfortunately, they do not get as much as arrested. They do not go to jail as much as black people. Okay, that is the issue. To Colorado, come on now, this per capita thing. This thing is so hyperbolic, not even hyperbolic. It's an echo chamber sometimes. We're talking about the context of things where we need to understand things.
Is math hyperbolic? Is math hyperbolic now?
Capita, come on.
Is drunk? Is going out? Is being outside drunk not a crime? Is being outside drunk not a crime? Is being publicly drunk not a
Obviously,
crime?
it's a drunk. Of course, it's a
Is
crime.
it not a
It's right
crime?
off the
No,
fucking
crime.
statistics.
How many of those people went to jail? How many people got committed for mental health? Listen, man, that's come on, man.
Arrested. What are you?
You can ask your own questions. That's why you fumbling. Listen. At the end of the day, right? Whenever something positive happens for change in America, it's usually because it's starting to adversely affect the white family, the white community. We need to save the white family. Listen, this is why when we said the attack on white family in America, and we brought up crime, there is no attack on the white family when you look at the numbers in terms of crime.
The argument was violent crime, not public intoxication.
Violent crime.
Those are two different things. I do care. Well, hold on, because like Republicans.
Let's focus. Let's focus.
Wait, okay.
We're talking about crime. Okay, violent crime.
No,
Listen,
okay,
I lived in the white suburbs. I lived in the white suburbs, and they found dead bodies up in the woods, and no one ever.
Okay, hold on. Okay. The problem is that here's the
time. Look, everyone, this is like amazing content. If you're not following already for all this, I don't know what's going on. Right? I can't. You are fucked if you're not following right now. Steven, respond.
Okay, here's two. Okay, so problem and example. Okay, the problem when we lose the plot this hard and we get so overwoke, we're tripping over ourselves. Okay, we lose the ability to even understand like what the fuck is going on. So for instance, in this matter of like who's committing more crimes, okay, the answer to this should be black people, because black people in the United States have had a history of oppression and currently are the most socioeconomically fucked group of people, largely broadly speaking, in the United States. Now, this breaks down among more specific lines, a black immigrant versus like an African American, of course. However, okay, this is something that's important to recognize. For us to simply just hand wave all this away and to be like, oh, well, actually, all the crimes that are committed by every community is just the same. It's actually just the same. It's all just like the police fudging numbers. Oh, well, in that case, well, fuck helping any black communities for like educational institutions, or fuck helping anybody in terms of like better housing. Like, I guess everybody just commits crime, right? You're losing the plot when you're getting into this world. It's like, oh, well, everybody acts the same. That's obviously not the case. And we know that because being socioeconomically fucked will have a ton of negative impacts on you. Living in houses, as dumb as it sounds, where fucking lead paint is on the fucking walls and your kids are eating that shit, has very bad downstream effects. We should know this. We do know this, and we should acknowledge this. We do acknowledge this. And so to walk all of this back and be like, oh, well, everybody commits the same amount of crime at the end of the day, is like, you've lost the plot. Number one. Number two, so as an example, I hate that I'm bringing this up as an example. I hope I don't hold a whole new bag of worms. I don't know how controversial this is, but another really good example of losing the plot, right? Why don't black people, make it into higher education? It must just be because of like racist policies when it comes to putting people in school. So what happened historically in the United States?
Black women are the most enrolled.
Okay. Sure. So historically, what was our big answer to that? It was affirmative action. And in a lot of ways, affirmative action has been a tremendous fucking failure because we've realized, okay, hold on, just taking people that wouldn't otherwise test into a school and throwing them there isn't actually the best way to solve these problems, because it's not just one racist person saying, no black people in our school. It's actually a way more multifaceted issue. And that's why in places like in California, where they got rid of affirmative action, where you had places where the enrollment of black students dropped in half, the graduation rates and absolute numbers of black students was unchanged, because a lot of the people that didn't test in anyway that would have gotten in via affirmative action would have failed out anyways, which has a whole bunch of other negative effects. So this is like an example of like, if we blame everything on race instead of taking a broader look at things, and then we implement policies that are along those lines, we end up, one, hurting the people that we need to fucking help, and then two, we don't have any fucking idea what we actually need to do in society to help anybody.
That may be true. I just want to respond. That may be true, but when you look at all the factors that you named, there has been a pinpoint microscope on all those factors that you named. Testing, state tests. They said there was a problem where it was you were more, if you were white, if you had a social context, you were able to understand more of those questions because you had I'm a teacher. They got rid of those. They got rid of them because they were saying it was
sure, but so like the problem is, I think you're talking to the people that don't make these type of asinine arguments, right? Me and like you called me a conservative because you saw me arguing with lefties that make dumb.
No, hold on. Okay, but just to be clear, I wasn't like accusing you. I just came one time. I thought you were like, I see you arguing that I made one comment one time. I was like, oh, I thought you were a black conservative. That's all I knew. But I didn't like accuse you of anything or make videos about you.
He doesn't think you did.
Okay, I'm just being sure on that. Okay.
No. But what I'm saying is, I want you to understand that you're in a conversation right now with people that demonize those people. So when you talk about breaking down education to solely race, no. If you talk to me as fanatic, guess what? You would hear us talk about how education is funded through this country through property taxes. Redlining is degrading, like redlining degrades economics, and then that degraded the education system, and that's why people don't do as well socioeconomically later in life. Like, we would have those nuanced takes, and that's what I want you to understand, Joe, to understand. We aren't boiling everything down to race, but we can say that there was racial factors that influenced redlining. So these problems are manifesting today, maybe not like historical causes of race are causing them today, but we understand that there's more nuance. So when you keep saying like empty rhetoric, like, oh, education problems aren't just race, like, we are the people that understand that. So you don't have to make those claims with us. That's all I'm saying. I really don't Like,
okay,
when y'all
I appreciate
continually
that, but
attack-
like a fanatic over and over again, and I don't know where you stand on this. Okay, wait, so I'm curious then, because I don't know if I've heard your opinion, because maybe I'm just conflated, because there's like it feels to me like there's three very different perspectives being presented here. Okay, you've got Legendary, who I don't know what the fuck planet he's on.
Black people don't
Okay,
have to be a monolith.
He's here.
I'm not. Oh, fuck off! Come on.
I'm
I
joking.
hate you. Okay.
Explain
So,
it to you.
I know he is. I know you are. Okay. Okay. But you've got the perspective provided by Legendary, which seems like I don't know. Again, I don't know what planet. Okay, that guy's
Very
from.
much on this planet.
Yes. Okay. And then you've got Fnatic, and then you've got you, Gammy, and Fnatic seems to be somewhere between where you're at and Legendary is at, and that's just what is like fucking me, because everybody keeps chiming in for other people's arguments, and yeah. So if I'm conflating something, so I'm sorry. So I was going to ask you specifically. So when it comes to like why we legalize or why we criminalize or why we demonize or stigmatize certain drugs today, do you think that race is the largest factor in most people's minds when it comes to how they view certain drugs?
Yes.
I think that they are subjected to our media, and our media pushes negative narratives based off race, and that's how it's formed. So maybe they don't. Maybe they don't intuitively understand that, but that's absolutely the case.
That's the problem of allowing.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you guys keep rephrasing it into something crazy. Like, no one's over here. I've explained a billion times.
Fanatic, you literally said this verbatim, my dude. You literally said verbatim.
A billion times. Joe, you were in here, and I explained very much that I said that literally the media and the way they started presenting the thing changed the way it happened. And I literally used the word cognitive bias, and I said cognitive bias influences these decisions a lot. It's not like an overt racism thing. That's not the way these things happen. In the same way, like when it came to Welfare Queen, I keep on giving that example over and over again. This isn't about overt racism. I just don't want black people to be getting it's not that.
Cognitive bias against black people. So
it is cognitive, yes, cognitive, yes, but it's not overt racism. It's not, and again, it's not conscious. Cognitive bias is by definition subconscious. And he just asked the question directly, would it be conscious racism in these people's mind? It's not conscious racism. It would be cognitive bias, which would be something that would be done by the media. So as I keep saying over and over again, the same thing that Gambit just said, no, it would not be a conscious bias, racist decision of, I just want black people to be subjugated. It would be a cognitive bias thing, which is something that's going to be done subconsciously.
I'm glad you're all on the same page.
We're on the same page, but we're gonna go back here again because you're gonna accuse me of that all over again.
Okay, no, I'm on all the pages with you right now. Okay.
Destiny is a fool. He doesn't listen. We're literally saying the same thing over and over again, having the same exact argument.
Okay, well, my inferior genetics. Listen, I'm trying to keep up. Okay, I understand. I'm emitting a lot of Utopian energy.
Okay, great.
Oh, Vivian was talking.
Yeah, we'll go with Vivian. We'll go with Vivian, Joe, Azzy. All right.
Okay, so the problem is, right, like, Destiny was proposing a solution to this problem, right, where you're talking about, like, subconscious bias, which I would argue that if it's bias based on race, like, it's still subconscious racism, whatever, right? Destiny was proposing the solution to this is not to always talk about it in the racial context, right? I would personally say that I think that that's wrong. I think that actually the solution is to try and make people more aware of structural racism so that they are then prepared to have these conversations at a later time rather than pandering to them like outside of that. But the problem is Fnatic keeps taking all these things like super fucking like everybody's only fucking addressing him when there were like five fucking people, 6 people, like all screaming at Destiny that he was a fucking white supremacist, and you got this fucking legend.
Wait,
dude,
there weren't 5 people saying Destiny. Wait, that's so hyperbolic.
I ain't fucking finished. So, and meanwhile, you got this fucking legend dude sitting behind you saying that Katarana should have a reproductive system, a slave to black liberation. Like, there's a lot of insane shit.
I said that she can do whatever she want to do. I was disappointed in her.
Yeah, that she has a moral obligation to not.
No, he didn't.
Outside her race.
No, he didn't. He said she can do what she wants. He literally said she can do what like y'all.
No. I specifically heard it's black man or else. That's what I heard. Anyway, Vivian, finish your point.
Why are you disappointed? Why are you disappointed in her if she died?
Oh, cause
wait. Wait,
Oh
why are you disappointed in her if she hasn't like
Explain that. I'm not going.
I'm disappointed in her.
Because you're
I'm
putting it-
disappointed in her.
But Vivian, people get different values.
Quiet. Holy shit, quiet. Everyone quiet. I
I
want
said
Legend to respond
anything
to that.
about her dedicating her womb to black liberation. I said I was disappointed in her, and we don't want her. That's fine. She can do what she want to do. It's fine.
Yeah,
At the end
exactly.
of-
You're saying you're disappointed in her because she wants to use her reproductive system in ways that you disapprove of, right?
That was her choice. I believe in free will. That's her choice.
I'm sorry, I was more articulate in voicing your.
No, you weren't.
On this
Oh, you
issue.
This is
weren't.
disgusting.
That's disingenuous, and you just completely mischaracterized.
Yeah.
I did not mischaracterize him for shit because he went on to say that she had the duty. She went on to say that the reason he was fucking disappointed, right, is because essentially she had a duty to like fuck inside her race to like
He
carry
never
on the fucking
said
black
that.
race. Yes, you fucking Catarana. Am I getting any of this wrong? I don't want to speak for you, babe.
I think I hate Legendary more than anyone on this panel, but he didn't say that. He did say she can do what she wants. He said that he just has a preference for one thing. I think is
he said she
No,
can do what she
yeah,
wants. But he's
Wow,
saying-
finally, that's
I know.
meaning is
I
objective.
can do what I want, but at the end of the day,
Appreciate
he's
you being
disappointed in me,
objective.
and he doesn't want me to. They don't want us. They don't want me anymore because I won't reproduce more black babies.
Oh,
They
okay.
can do whatever they want and then say
Brian, you
you're
see what you
disappointed
did?
in them.
You see what you did, Brian?
It's saying somebody can do whatever they want and then saying that saying that you're disappointed in them for making a particular decision implies that you prefer them to make another decision, right? And
But that doesn't mean that they're not okay with them making their own choices.
In this case, you're making a judgment of and shaming somebody for doing something that you
I'm
obviously
shaming
think
her
is like
now?
morally less. Yes, you said you're fucking disappointed.
Can I go now? Can I go now, Brian?
No,
Brian,
no. All right, Legend, you can respond to that. Then we'll go to Joe, okay?
I don't get to
Okay,
respond.
you want to go?
Wait. I want to get to respond to what he has to say about my womb.
At the end of the day, I said that she can do whatever she wants to do with her body is her womb. Don't want her to dedicate it to black liberation and all this other stuff.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want in your life.
Let him respond.
I believe in free will. I believe in free will. She can do what she wants. All I said was I was disappointed in her, and I explained that.
And you can do whatever
I told you
want
what
in
I
your
would
life.
do personally. I told you my individual beliefs on what I would do personally.
I think what Vivian is saying is that these two
as well.
statements are pharmacologically similar to one another.
Well, you can do whatever you like. Wait, come on, let me fucking finish the sentence. God fucking damn. You can do whatever you want in your fucking life too, buddy, but I'm very fucking disappointed in you for the way that you've represented yourself and your opinions on this panel.
Thank you. It's so great that I don't need your validation.
I don't care.
So great that you can be disappointed.
Okay, one at a time. Shut up. Okay, I'm gonna mute.
I don't give a shit. That is me making some kind of like value statement about your fucking behavior, okay? Right? I am assessing your behavior, your rhetoric, and the kind of shit that you've said on this panel to be fucking shit, okay? Absolutely fucking insane, batshit crazy. And it's no fucking wonder that Fanatic can't make sensible fucking points when he's got somebody like you behind him howling all this fucking like insane shit, okay?
Okay. All right, great.
Go.
So now, hold on. Before that, Katarana can respond to the womb comments, and then Joe can go. All right.
You know what? If I'm gonna respond, I'd like to also hear what else Legend had to say about my white daddy. So honestly, I might as well just okay. Oh, Zaddy. Okay. I want to Pokemon this. Let's catch them all. Let's go. Legend, what do you have to say about? I don't know. Something. Turn on your mic again. Yeah.
Joe, it's your turn. She chooses
I
you.
didn't meet you.
Yeah.
No, he's
Legend, you're muted. I didn't meet you. Go ahead.
Yeah. So again, you can do whatever you want, Katarina. You like white zaddy, that's your business. Done. We're done. Disappointed in you. Don't want you. We don't want you. You can make your choices with your own womb. Vivian or whoever this guy is, I don't really care for too much for him or whatever. He's
I'm sorry. Why? Excuse me. Why?
a clown.
I'm sorry. Why are you?
No, he
Why are we miss?
He doesn't know.
what it is.
Vivian is a woman. Just so we're
Sorry,
clear.
so just so you know, Vivian.
Yeah, it's fine.
We love our good friend Vivian, but that's okay. That's fine.
We may never see her outside of a picture.
Yeah,
Vivian, whatever. What you do, I don't care. I don't need your validation. You can be disappointed in me all you want. It really doesn't bother me. I'm glad you are.
Imagine if every
because it sounds like you and I don't have the same ideals, and it's great that you are disappointed in me, and I really don't give a fuck.
Okay, imagine if every single fucking person, like every single black person in your community had the exact same opinion and view that I did, right? The social pressure.
Beautiful thing that we're not one monolith.
Wait, yeah, it is a beautiful thing that you're not monolith, right? But,
I'm sure you're not disappointed about that, because everybody doesn't think like me.
Dude, I'm trying to make a fucking point here that's salient, okay?
Your point and keep it
I'm
going.
not just trying to fucking shit on you, alright? The point is, okay, that by like expressing those kinds of opinions, saying, oh, well, you can do whatever you want, but I'm disappointed in you, you're propagating a particular attitude, right, that like places certain pressures on women to behave in certain fucking ways. It doesn't matter whether or not you say, oh, you're free to make your own choice, if you propagate the attitude that it is a shameful behavior to fuck outside of your race, okay? That is something that you did on this fucking panel, and that is fucking disgusting. It is misogynist. The idea that you can actually pronounce or have any kind of fucking judgment on the behavior of another woman fucking outside of her race. Okay?
We're into misogyny because I said I was disappointed in her. Got you.
Yes, it is misogyny. Yes.
Okay.
That you think you can actually judge.
Okay, let's get on the road. Let's keep.
Not to, like how to use her reproductive fucking system. You don't get to be
He
fucking.
said she can do what she wants.
You say you can do what
get
you
to be
want.
fucking
Let's keep going.
Talking about, man.
And we're
Okay,
everybody's
alright.
disappointing.
Okay. All right. Oh, okay. Great. So we got it. All right. So Katarana, womb conversation, please end it, and then Joe.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Yeah. I don't really understand why people are trying to like justify and say, oh no, but he said you could do what you want. Great. Like I can also go ahead and tell my kid, like, you know, you could be gay, but I think it's a sin. Like it's the same shit. Like, but as soon as he adds but, there's a qualifier, which means that it's not I could do what I want. It's you could do what I want, but you're one of us, which is whatever.
Wait,
I want to be. I don't want to be. Great. I'm not talking to you.
No,
Hold on.
no.
But like I'm
tell
not
people
like
all the time.
Stop. No.
Yeah, I'm being baited. Because
Okay.
Cameron, I don't think you believe this. We tell people all the times what they should or do. But that doesn't mean that they're misogynistic and all that.
It's okay. Did I say the word misogynistic? No, I didn't, honey. Hush, hush. Okay, cool. So, great. Whatever. If I don't want to be one of whatever you are, Legend, amazing. I don't want to be one of whatever the fuck you're supposed to be because we all know that you're just $1.99 Gazi Quoto. You're about to go ahead and make your fucking land in the Colorado. Good luck with that. I know you didn't open up today. Maybe a bunch of people that are here don't realize it, but you're literally a fucking black nationalist, and no one wants to be friends with you anyways. Because I can actually read a fucking textbook.
I love
and
Legend.
I understand.
Don't
Is black separatist.
You're black separatist, not a black nationalist.
Black man is black separatist. Why are you associating me with them?
Okay, but you're black nationalist, so you're
Let's not
better.
talk about the black Akatsuki. Let's move on.
Okay, no.
Okay.
You're a black nationalist, which, oh, fuck, you know what? That makes it so much more logical. You're great. And then as for who I'm dating, not that it's any of your fucking business, but I am literally currently in a relationship with like a North African person who's literally fucking Middle Eastern, also most likely is probably black as a result of what fucking continent he lives on. So let's go see if I can go call up my white zaddy, the Muslim. But
Is he Stephen passing? Is he Stephen? Is he Steven passing? Yeah.
Okay. All
Nah,
right.
Blade,
Great.
don't answer that. Come on, Joe.
I don't even know what that is, but Joe, please go.
I honestly don't know what I'm responding to at this point.
I don't know either.
How do you feel about using your womb for white liberation? That's the question, I think.
terribly. Yeah, I mean, just because I missed this part of the conversation, how did we get to the conversation on the war on drugs from the conversation about just fucking people of your own race?
Should you date outside? Is it racist to only date
The
your
attack
own
on the
race?
black
That was
and
the-
white
that was
family.
the question.
No, I can paraphrase because it was literally our argument.
No. Why you? Oh, sorry.
She doesn't know.
I genuinely, I wasn't.
I said it already.
She doesn't know. I'm like literally going to explain it really quickly.
We branched from the
main argument was that I feel like that there's been an all-out, an ongoing assault on the black family. I still feel that way. I feel like black women and the image of the black woman is very much assaulted within this country. I feel like the features of black people are demonized pretty regularly, and consequently, not only because of that, but consequently, black women are significantly less likely to be to be married and things like that. Furthermore, we find within black culture, I've experienced this myself, all sorts of amounts of like self-hate, right? Self-hatred, internalized racism. Like these things are embedded. We obviously have those studies, those black doll studies, and those things clearly demonstrate that as young as 5 kids already have these really bad projections or they impute really negative attributes on black people as young as 5 years old. Black kids do this as well. So because of that, I felt like it's a part of my what I want to do. This is me, my argument. What I want to do is I feel like I want to marry a black woman because I think the idea of trying to instill that self-love so that a kid doesn't go through the same journey I did of internalized racism, self-hatred, and all of these kinds of things before they eventually get to the self-love part. I feel like it would be really helpful to have a to be with the black partner and to start this journey from the very beginning, to really push that agenda. And I feel like it'd be a hard thing to try to sell to a kid, like, no, you need to respect and love and elevate the black woman, and she's not ugly just for being black, while simultaneously he's looking at me like, yeah, but you married a white woman, so you must not have found him that attractive, right? I feel like it's just an added step. That's just part of my opinion. And so we were asking if there's
that's such a shitty thing. Oh my god.
So we were asking a question in closing. We were asking a question if there was an assault on the black family, and as a result of that, when we were talking about that, then that's when it became about the war on drugs and how that was directly an assault on the black family. But that's where the conversation went.
I appreciate that perspective so that I can get a better idea of like how upset like mixed race people get when people like you exist that think that like, well, if you have mixed parents, there's no fucking way that you can understand the real black experience. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, so as a black person who has plenty of mixed family, and all of my family have mixed children, because literally all of my older siblings married people of mixed heritage. Of different heritage. So I do recognize how awful it is for mixed people in particular.
Then you're also depriving.
My favorite person on the planet, my cousin, is a mixed person, and I understand how awful that is. But I'm not saying.
Do you acknowledge that you're depriving? Do you acknowledge that you're depriving your kid the understanding of having your black mixed experience? Then you're actually trying to sell them a different experience what you had by only ever dating a black person, right?
No, I'm black. Both of my parents.
No,
are black,
I know you are. I'm sorry. I thought you said that you had a more
mixed. Please. It's Joe's turn.
No, I'm saying all of my siblings.
Stop asking.
Oh yeah, I have him muted. That's crazy. I didn't even know what's happening. All of my siblings married mixed people. So for me, I'm saying specifically. Now, I'm just saying I didn't even know he was interjecting. It's beautiful. It's a great thing because he does a lot. So I'm saying specifically when it comes to I'm not depriving my kids of a mixed experience, but again, and I would never demonize other people for having mixed people. And I recognize, like I said, my favorite person on the planet happens to be my cousin Shireen, and I'm always having to that's something that's a big part of our conversations. It's specifically about like the difficulty where we always ostracize them for being quote unquote white, even though they're very much like she's half black. And we demonize them for that. And then the white kids always felt like they were too black to be friends with them. And I recognize how disgusting it is. And I recognize her journey when it came to internalized hatred. And with her partner, who is also mixed in his eye, like kind of sometimes ideas of being like, well, white people are evil and stuff like that. And it's like, no. You can't think that way. You have to love all parts of yourself. Don't demonize the white part of you. That's part of who you are.
But aren't your preferences like reaffirming that?
No, because are my preferences reaffirming?
Like, aren't you literally saying? Well, hold on. So it sounds to me, and I'm saying that because apparently I never get right what the fuck you're saying. It sounds to me like you're saying you need to have a child with a black person because they're going to have the most understanding of your experience, that shared experience. So aren't you essentially saying that like for people that have like mixed race children, for like a white and a black parent, that they can never truly understand like the experience of their child, that they're missing some part of that experience or whatever because of the relationship they've chosen? Isn't that like a big problem? Like, aren't you playing exactly into the problems that mixed race people have in terms of acceptance in either black or white communities?
So no, I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm playing into the problem, but I would say that indeed, yes, that the parents of mixed children do not fully ever understand that. I would say that like there's been so many examples of that. I would say Mariah Carey is like literally one of the most obvious examples, and that's been one of the largest parts of her platform, is specifically referring to the fact that the mixed experience is something that is incredibly unique. It is something that's incredibly demonized by again both parties, and it's something that it seems like society in general doesn't truly fully understand. And even when we have people like Barack Obama, who's obviously who's a mixed person, we still refer to him as a black president. No one pretty much references the whiteness in him. Whereas you have other people like Mariah Carey in her younger days, where they always thought of her as just white until she drew her father as a black person. So the idea is, yes, I would say, and her mother does not at all, in any way, shape, or form, fully understand her experience. Her mother pretty much tried to like encourage her to embrace the whiteness and like tried to like sequester her from the blackness. So I would say that her mother doesn't fully understand her situation, and she's said as much. I would say that that's the case in most of the time with mixed children. I say that they deal with a really unique battle that is unlike it, like that's completely different than the black experience even. And again, if I had a mixed child, I would love that child the same, and I would try my best to be affirming to that child and help him to understand that, like, or her, that yeah, you're both of these things. Both of these things make up your makeup. Love who you are. Love where you come from. Love those things. Don't ever try to demonize yourself. I had to learn that lesson the hard way myself, so I understand that a mixed child is going to have that as well. But yeah, no, I don't think that I'm contributing to that.
I want to go to Joe next, but just to the chat, come on, like if you're not following this amazing content, what the fuck are you doing? And if you're not donating to keep this content alive, I mean, I'm not even playing commercials here, right? This is pure unadulterated amazingness, right? So donate and help keep this content alive, and follow, for fuck's sakes. All right, Joe.
Oh, I thought you was gonna do it though, Prime. Hold on. You should have did it. You should like, well, if you haven't subbed, damn it, watch this commercial. You should.
Oh, I should have. But I'm trying to be nice, everyone. I'm trying to be nice. But you should be donating to help keep this content up. I'm being kind to all of you. All right. So donate, and follow. All right, go ahead, Joe.
No, I think it's really good that you explain that, Fanatic, because it helps me understand more of where you're coming from. But again, I think it shows a sort of like mixing of different variables. So even the fact that you see marriage as something really important, and the way that the understanding of marriage as constituting a family, when a lot of the time in black communities, marriage isn't what constitutes a family. There are wider community networks. There's a stronger connectedness through community, and that's why statistics show this single mother statistic in black communities, when actually a lot of the time there are present black fathers, they're just not married. So it is interesting to me, something that is, in my view, quite historically a white institution, such as marriage, is something that you really aspire to and mix those variables. In terms of like historically where it comes from religiously, and that integration through colonization of religion. So that's interesting to me. The other thing that's interesting to me is that I think, this is not academic, this is just personal. I would hate for my kid to hear the reasoning for me marrying my partner is that I didn't want you to think that white men were ugly. And society's going to tell you that white men are ugly. So I married a white man, not because I loved them, not because I cared about them, because I didn't want you to think that they were ugly. When I know that's a bit uncharitable, but like, to be fair,
where do you live?
It's Australia. It's a much bigger argument than just who you marry. It's media. It's centuries of and you said this, Fanatic, this is society has built up our view of black women. You're marrying a black woman might institute some sort of love, if there is love in that relationship, and I hope first and foremost that would be why you would choose to have a relationship with someone, not based on race. I'm not being as uncharitable as you are shaking your head.
You missed some of his commentary though. He talked about earlier how it's
I said this earlier, and if it needs to be said again, I will. I was addressing it earlier when Azzy was making this absolutely absurd statement. No, the idea is, look, even though, okay, I'm going to love whoever I'm going to marry because I'm committing my life to that person, and marriage is particularly sacred to me as a biblical fundamentalist. So then the idea is I'm going to obviously love a person, but just because I'm going to I felt like this is so crazy to me. I felt like it was pretty much it didn't need to go. It went without saying that if I was marrying someone, I'd love them. Otherwise I could literally marry any black woman, right? I'm 36 years old right now. I'm not married now, so that means obviously there's other selected selection category other than just the blackness, right? Like I would assume that you would know that. But if I need to state to you that love is obviously going to be one of the leading factor in my marriage partner, then yes, I'm sorry, I'll say that for you now. Love will obviously be a factor, and it's not like I'm fetishizing the person or dehumanizing the person and looking at them as a race first. I'm looking for all sorts of other compatibility. I listed off a bunch of them. I want someone that's musically inclined. I want someone that shares my faith. I want somebody that's economically viable, that's in a similar economic situation as me. Somebody that has the same respect and attitude towards debt, and someone who shares some of the similar values. Obviously, all of these things are incredibly important. I just want to find a person that has those attributes within a black woman. That's it.
So I just don't see why it's like. So
I gotta respond. He called me out.
Nobody cared.
I love Vivian. Yo, Vivian, that was based. I love.
I don't even remember anything Vivian said. Like,
nobody. So it's okay to have like certain preferences or preferences for certain traits and stuff. That's understandable to me. The thing that I can't get my head around is when people are like, okay, like this thing in particular. I had this fucking conversation with Destiny and like trans people and penises and shit, so he's gonna disagree with me here. But like when somebody goes, this thing here is like a full-on fucking deal breaker, right? Like I will never date somebody with this physical immutable characteristic, right? Not talking ideology, because obviously that's more about character and compatibility, but like a physical trait, I don't understand how anybody can have that as a solid deal breaker.
So I think that's ridiculous. We do this all the time. We see it on a regular basis. You'll find that people will have like certain immutable characteristics that they are like really, really dead set on. I know certain people that are like, I would never date a chick who was taller than me. Like, and that's their preference. And I get it. If you feel that's stupid, okay, that's okay. Fortunately, they get to choose their life partner, not based off of your validation. Likewise, you can find people that would say things like, well, I want to date a person who I'm really attracted to blue eyes. I would say physical attraction is an incredibly important thing in a relationship. You got to keep things spicy, and if you're having erectile dysfunction at 30, things probably aren't going to last for you very long, right? So I would say that there's a bunch of things. There's a bunch of immutable characteristics that people will say. Height could be one of them. Weight isn't necessarily immutable, but people do have more genetic predispositions towards different body types. Certain people will have like really care about a woman having a lot of cakes or a woman having a lot of titties. Like those things can be particular. Like there's different people who have different characteristics that they're going to prefer, and based on those things, those people can say that. I know people that would not marry a person that don't have
how many titties do you prefer? I'm just very curious. And people aren't subbing, so I'm going to pay a commercial, but go ahead, Vivian. And then off to Azzy.
I understand how you can have preferences for these things. I think it's extremely fucking shallow to turn around and say that they're deal breakers. I think that you can have a very strong preference for them, but I think you should always be open to the
are you demonizing somebody for their dating preferences? Oh my god.
Well, also, I would like to meet...
Shut up.
Something that you should be like...
Date who they want. They have to date with
that's obvious.
How dare you ascribe? You have values to...
Whoa, too many.
Obvious trap, bro. Come on, bro. You gotta do better than that.
Yeah, I do. So I do know that the majority of people have things that they consider deal breakers. I think it's extremely shallow. I think it's baked into our society that like makes us like pushes us towards like having certain fucking deal breakers. But I think that if you don't allow for the possibility that you could fall in love with somebody with like one of these physical immutable traits, then I think you're doing yourself a disservice. I think you're being shallow and you're doing yourself a disservice.
Would you say
you should always allow for the possibility that you can...
I have a question. I have a question. Are you disappointed in people who do that?
No, I'm just disappointed
I am.
in you, man, because you can't shut the fuck up.
I think it's disappointing.
I do too.
I would like to say that there's a difference between having like having a preference towards some physical thing that might be very hard or impossible to change versus having like an ideological preference. Because what Fanatic is talking about is not like a physical preference for like a certain appearance. It's an ideological preference.
Yeah, it's not just being attracted to black skin. It's another level of ridiculousness, frankly.
Sure, you can call it ridiculous, but I would say there's black women who have black skin that don't share my image, right? They don't share my vision.
Hold on, no one is saying, it's not about saying that you would date all black women, it's just saying that you would only date black women. That's the issue. Not that no one's saying you're dating all black women, just that you would only date a black woman.
I know, but I was just pointing out that, like, okay, sure. I guess earlier it did a few people actually kept characterizing it as if it was like,
yeah, Joe was saying that because she didn't hear the earlier part, but
and not just Joe, that happened earlier too. Like this has been an ongoing conversation, but it's fine.
Stop being racist.
All right, Destiny, I see you, bro.
Go ahead, Joe, and then
I have a question for Fanatic, which is because I want to make sure I understand. Is it that you want to marry a black woman for what that will signal to your child about love and race, and or is it something to do with sharing an experience and an understanding of the world with the woman that you're marrying?
I think it's both of those things. I think, but the signaling thing, man, it happened over time, right? So I had a friend that, like, all my life, I always thought white women were like kind of like at the top. I remember, like, I had this belief. Like, one of my best friends, he preferred white women, and he was always pointing out white women to me, always. So then by the time I'm looking around, I'm like, okay, this is what I started to recognize. This is what I looked at. This is what I looked for. And one day, I had a conversation with one of my friends, and we were kind of unpacking it. And when he was just like, which would you prefer? If you had a racial preference, which would you prefer, black women or white women? And I was like, I think black women. And he was like, okay, Hispanic women or white women? And I was like, I guess I've always talked to Hispanic women. I guess that'd be my preference. Asian. And then by the time we were done, I went from thinking in my mind that these were the cream of the crop to recognizing, like, wait a minute, no, actually, I do prefer most other races to white women, right? Now, that doesn't mean that I've never dated white women or I wouldn't be with white women or any of those things, but then that signaled to me, like, man, this imagery I've had in my head of white women being the most attractive and so on and so forth is something that's been subconscious and implanted, in my opinion, by the media. And so then at that point, then I was like, oh, then that disgusts me that I've been, like, deceived in that way. And so then in deconstructing that, then it gave me this recognition that I should probably, like, that I'm not the only person that experiences that. I'm not the only black person that experiences that. And then it made me want to fight against that in a way. Like, it made me feel, like I said, violated in some sense. Like, I've been manipulated into esteeming white women above black women in a way. And I felt like that was disgusting.
Something that's really important to not, this is like weird because now we're like in your personal preferences or whatever. I guess just something that I try to do is like,
what it is.
But just because something, there's like this classic mistake. It's like, I don't want to say it's like a teenager mistake, but you have this rebellious phase in your life where you realize, like, wait a second, I don't agree with this idea, so I'm not going to be influenced by it anymore. And the way to not be influenced by it is to do the exact opposite of it. You're still a slave to that very, like, mentality. You're just doing it like in like a -1 fashion or whatever. You're doing like the anti-derivative or whatever. Like, wouldn't it be better to recognize, like, oh, like, maybe there are different types of beauty among different types of people. Maybe I don't have to have this, like, obsession thinking like, oh, white women are like the be all and end all, but not necessarily set this thing where you're like, just because people told me that white women are the most beautiful, fuck all white women. I'm not going to date any of them. Now I'm only dating black women. Like, wouldn't it be better to just recognize it and, like, yeah, that's not it. It's not me just saying F all white women or thinking that white women are gross now. I'm not saying they're gross, but like, fuck them all and just like, you're not going to date them. Like, wouldn't it be better to
well, you sure in general, but I think that's just a small that factor led me down this realization that the self-hatred and all of those internalized racism things didn't stop at just women or the women I was attracted to. There were so many other levels. I started recognizing the way I spoke and, like, man, like, I really do go out of my way to try to be like an ambassador when I'm, like, in specific white spaces. And I started recognizing, like, dang, man, I, like, change the way I speak and use a vocabulary in a specific way and use specific diction because I want to make sure that they're clear. I'm a good one. And it was like, whoa, where is all this? And in learning all that, then it made me start recognizing, man, now I get why black women are married at such a small rate. But then I started recognizing why I had dated mostly non-white women at one point, and was like exclusively dating Hispanic women at one point. And it was just like, whoa, now I get that. And so then that's what made me start feeling like, man, you know, it's going to be hard for me. Like, I had to learn this lesson, and I'm a pretty introspective guy. I would imagine that this is something that's pretty pervasive throughout the African American community. And so I started recognizing that in order to fight this, in order for me to be a difference, and for my progeny not to have this, then it's going to take a concerted effort, and that's part of what led me there. It's
Have you thought,
like,
how far away are you? Yeah, I understand. How far away from being like, maybe I just shouldn't have any white friends either?
Why would that be? What I don't understand how those two.
Well,
would be.
if you find that you're in a lot of like white spaces, so you've probably heard this. But I'm not trying to explain down, but for people, so one of the things you're talking about is like code switching. The idea that you kind of subtly change the way that you talk to different groups of people. Like if you start to notice that this is something that's happening, that you feel like you're an ambassador around white women and maybe even white people in general. Like how long or why would it be crazy to say, you know what, I'm actually going to prefer to keep mainly black company. I'm going to try to avoid making white friends.
Why not just not code switch though?
Right.
No, that's my no. I agree with you, Gambit, 1,000,000%. Well, you just said I agree with you, but not code switching would imply you would also be dating like any white or black or blah blah blah, not just cutting.
No, but you can still have friends and not date them. That's what I'm saying. You could just not code switch around white people.
Well, but you could also date a white woman and not like
you made a really big logical leap with there was no plumbing to get there.
Well, I was trying to get there, but you interrupted me literally the second I opened my fucking mouth, so I didn't even get a chance to build it.
I'm sorry. It's okay. No, he didn't. But it's okay, Destiny. Go ahead. Explain it. What do you mean?
All I'm saying is that, so if you found that in Western society, well, in all society, it seems like a lot of white beauty standards are hardcore fetishized, and you found that you've fallen victim to some extent, we all have, of thinking that like white is right and that's the only way to look beautiful and fuck curly hair and all this shit that especially during the 90s, holy fuck, like a lot of this stuff was ultra prevalent. If you found that and you're like, you know what, I disagree with that, I don't like how I act around white people, I've noticed this, I've been like hardcore sold on this, I'm gonna change up now and I'm not gonna date white women anymore, I'm gonna try to find a black woman and it's like part of my path to addressing this. Like, why couldn't you also, like on the next path, be like, I think I'm also going to try to keep mainly black friends as well. Like, I'm not going to like say fuck all white people, but like, I'm not really, if I start talking to a white person, I'm not really going to try to make friends with them. I'm just going to try to keep exclusively black friends as well. Like, why is it so different from the like dating romantic part?
Destiny, listen, I promise you, I'm not trying to like, I'm not trying to dismiss what you're saying. I genuinely don't see these things as related almost even at all. I'm sorry, I just can't follow. I really am trying, and I know it's frustrating because you're giving me an example, and it's not connecting at all. Like I think these things are wildly different. Like my behavior as far as code switching, yes, that's a behavior that I'm going to change. I'm always going to have to live.
Okay, wait. Here's a question. Let's say that, would you send your kid to an all-white private school where there's like 3 other black kids?
No. I'm actively not doing that right now.
Okay, but what about Okay, Fanatic, would you?
With that. I probably, I don't know. I'm
okay,
not
so
sure.
if I had to guess based on what you've said, and I'm giving you an answer that might not be yours, so I understand that. So I'm not committing you to what I'm answering. But my guess would probably be something like, well, probably not, because he's going to be treated, or she's going to be treated like an outsider, and that's going to be like a very white experience, and it's not going to be very authentic to like what I was going for with like, why would I go through all the effort of like finding and marrying a black woman to have like a black child with 2 black parents that share all the history and culture, and now send them to an all-white school? Like, fuck, am I betraying my principles, right? So I mean, I feel like it would be pretty easy to get you on board with that. Don't send them to a fucking all-white school, right? At the very least, mixed school or a majority black school. And I don't think it's that far away from me. Like, I'm gonna keep like majority black company. It doesn't seem that far removed from me.
Those things are incredibly different. So like, as far as the schooling thing, right? Like that is something that I would struggle with pretty heavily. I've always insisted, like, no matter what, like, my children will be homeschooled. Like, there's just literally no way I'd ever put them in like public school, and even private schools just sounds absolutely atrocious to me. I won't really want my children to be homeschooled. But aside from that, like just engaging the hypothetical, I would say that like when it comes to the school experience, that it would feel like a lot of times that these children would like kind of like lack some of the cultural understandings and things like that. I would imagine that they would encountered like large amounts of racism, and if I'm not there or we're not able to be able to protect them from those things, I could think that would be a large source of some of that internalized racism, and that's something that I would absolutely fight against. Now, does that mean that I would want my children to be separated, all exclude? Like, no, I don't think that's so crazy. Like, no, even like a lot of my friends are still white, and I still deal with my white friends like that. There's no, I'm not like, I don't think that's a big deal, but I would say that like that internalized racism is just something that's embedded in our media and embedded in this country. So because of that, I would think that it's going to need a concerted effort. But you could do that, like that's when you're choosing your life partner, because that's what's going to directly impact your progeny.
Okay,
but as
final question. To borrow from Legendary's way, just final one. I'm sorry, and then I'm done. This is curious. Okay,
this is about to be crazy.
I'm just curious.
I know it is.
You might. Would you be, your child grows up, 18, 19, would you be disappointed, to borrow Legendary's words, if they decided to marry somebody that wasn't black?
No, I would not. But and the reason why I wouldn't is specifically for me. Well, I would hope, and you can only hope, right? Because obviously, children, it's like there's no handbook for parenting, right? Like I have like 24, I want to say nieces and nephews. I come from a pretty big family, and I've been there for like the vast majority of their lives. A lot of them lived at home with my parents when I was growing up. I'm the youngest, but I would say that. If I did a good job as a parent, right? Well, you can't guarantee this, but I would say that I would hope that through my parenting, that my child wouldn't have that internalized racism. That's part of my entire mission, I would say, and because of that, then I would feel like. In doing so from like such a young age and whatnot, then yeah, I'm not like that child. I can only control what happens directly for my child's upbringing, and that would be my job. And outside of that, whatever choices he makes, as long as he's an entirely healthy individual, an introspective individual with a good moral system, I want that kid to do whatever the freak he wants to do. I'm not gonna I can't control these things.
Okay, all right, we got it. Right, so I'm sorry, just. Joe, just about to leave. So, Joe, get your point. Then we'll go to Katarana. Azzy.
Yeah, I think Fanatic, I really get what you're saying. I think the thing that I keep hitting up against that I don't like is part of what Destiny said, which is the opposite of realizing that you have that internalized sort of racism and that view that has been entrenched through society to view people based on race and to prefer certain things and equate that with beauty, isn't to go the other way. It's to recognize that and make sure that you're aware of it and not bring race into your perception of beauty, to eradicate that entirely, not to change who's on the top of the hierarchy, just eradicate race and be aware of that. The thing that I keep hitting against that I really dislike, and I've worked it out now, is that I don't like the idea that you are using another person to achieve your racial ideological means. You keep referring to your progeny and how your relationship is going to affect your children and your ideological goals. Well, your partner probably has a fucking desire in her life and has ideological goals and all of that. And I would hope that she doesn't use you to achieve that. I think you need to treat people as human beings instead of using them in your grand master plan for how you'll achieve your ideological goals. And that's how it sounds. That's maybe not what you mean, but just be aware that it's coming across that way. And whenever you refer to your progeny in relationship to whoever you're married, it is very concerning.
That's like a third. That's a third date conversation. Like, I'm so glad that you're black, so that our progeny can have a shared cultural background. That's a third date conversation.
That would happen, but I want to say really quickly, just to push back against that. I think.
Oh my God! No, you said your point multiple times. Yeah, many points. We got it. We got it. It's an interpretation. It's sorry. Look, it's gonna have to. You're gonna have to hold that. All right, then moving on. Katarana.
But I want to explain this.
You will later on. Katarana, as he's been waiting even long. Wait, he hasn't even fucking said anything. They just Katarana, Azzy, Gambit, go, hurry up.
Okay, yeah, I just think it's kind of, I understand the whole like purpose behind all of it, but like if I were to hear it, let's say from the other side, if somebody that was white said, I understand that there's a lot of bias in media, so I want to go ahead and work on my own bias, and I'm going to date you, and you're attractive. But there's more attractive people, but I need to go ahead and fix some of the things that I'm working on because you're black, and I understand that media is really racist. I'd be like, what the fuck? I understand that, like, it's different, of course, because a part of it might be that you want to go ahead and, like, make sure that your kids, understand the culture. But if you're doing a good enough job, your kids can understand your culture no matter who you end up marrying. Like, right now, for my family, the Chinese part is separated for, more than one generation. But I still know very much about, like, my ancestry, and I make sure that I'm very a part of, like, that part of my culture. So I don't see why necessarily... it's possible to still pass these things down, and it just honestly just try thinking about it when it's always reversed from the other way, and it sounds whack as fuck, and it sounds really fucking cringe. If anyone were to walk up to me and say that they would date me because they're trying to work on their racism and but in the media portrayal, I'd be like, please get away from me. That's okay. As fuck.
All right, great. Anything else, Katarana? Because you've been waiting a long time. I want to make sure you got it.
It's fine. I'll go ahead and.
Okay, great.
I'll reply later.
Azzy, you'll make your point later. Make your point now. Don't wait later. Make your point.
No. Like, I don't have anything else on this point.
Okay.
I'll respond to other things later.
Okay. Okay. Azzy, and then Gambit.
Listen, I can't wait till Jesus comes back because he's gonna fix all these problems. Because you guys said a lot of good things, but a lot of this stuff is just not based in any type of sound logic. Honestly, this is what I had a lot to say, but I gotta cut it short because I want GSU to go before it's 5 a.m. on the East Coast. When I say I'm disappointed in Katarana, it's not that I'm saying I'm disappointed in Katarana. I should probably rephrase. I'm disappointed in the rare to non-existent black men in Canada.
Wait, you're disappointed too?
Let me finish. I did say that. I'm a little disappointed in the black men who did not approach Katarana because there's a way we go about dating where usually the man approaches the woman. So I'm assuming that most of the men or women or whoever approached Katarana approached her. I don't know if she made any active decisions to try to reach out to black men. I was going to say the same thing to Joe. Like, Joe, you probably didn't find any Aboriginal or black people in Australia because more than half of the people in Australia are European, but she's gone now, so it doesn't matter.
Knowing what my major is, where would I have gone? Where would I have met the black person?
Listen, now I'm disappointed.
Where would I meet black people? Where would I meet black people?
Huh?
Where would I meet black people?
That's why I said rare to non-existent black people in Canada, because it's like 3.5%. You have less black people in Canada than you do in anywhere else in the world. I'm sorry. You don't got no black guys to find. See that? So you can give her a pass, Legend. All right. So you know what I'm saying? All right. That's his decision. Listen. When I say to fanatic. The media has been portraying black women. Listen, when Moses married a Cushite as a black Israelite, or you want to be, because I know you're gonna, he was black too. No, they didn't do black back in the day, bro. There was no race back in the day. It was culture. It was culture. So when he married a dark-skinned Cushite, his wife and his brother is like, nah, this don't feel type of way. You know what God did? God struck them with leprosy. It was like, yo, keep your man off the man of God and stop talking about this beautiful dark-skinned women. literally, dark-skinned women have been, the issue of dark-skinned women has been gone since all the way back to time of Moses. Listen, when I say that, when you're allowing culture to dictate your ability to make your own decision, I'll give Fanatic the pass. I'll be charitable and say he did the intrinsic work to then make the decision himself to where I'm going to love a black woman because it's his decision. It's going to help, that's fine. But many of the people who will say the same thing he's saying, they're not doing it. I don't care at this point. I really don't care. Many of the people who are doing the same thing he's doing, they're not doing it for the same reasons he's doing. That's why it's problematic. There's reasons for it. You can love whatever you want. Shoot, you can love Satan. That don't mean you doing it for the right reasons. You know what I'm saying? Listen, that's all I'm gonna say.
You said a year ago you had some real kind of shit views about like black women. Do you think that you said he'd done the work? Do you think that
he said he did the work? He said he did the introspective work where he realized the problems in his views.
Joe has asked
what did Joe ask?
Azzy asked Joe asked why are you obsessed with who she fucks? First of all,
it's not about sex. It's not about
she said, "Is Azzy upset because I pull more than him?"
But see that's childish. But this is why I need to hear her bimbo logic. Joe
says, "Tell Azzy that I've made more black women come than he has." So I'm just saying.
Grown. She can come in here and talk for herself. What are you?
I'm just saying. Look,
she's saying this in chat.
Always be Joe's mouthpiece. All right. I mean, that sounds a bit. Okay, let me try that again. I will always be Joe's spokesperson. Joe she has the receipts for this. But anyway, so do you want to answer?
Dated an Aboriginal man or woman? She dated an Aboriginal man or women or any other man outside of the European.
She said black. She's fucking mad black woman. Okay,
she said black. That's what she said. She's fucking mad black woman. That's what it was. Yeah.
It's not. I'm not talking about sex. I'm talking about relationships. I don't know. Between dating, I'm talking about holistic relationships. I'm not just talking about what CTV came in here and said, hey, all the poom is the same. It doesn't matter what it is as long as you're able to stick your thing in it. Like, shut up, CTV. This is why half of America is single, because they listening to dumb takes like that. They only focus on sex, and they're not really getting into any type of actual fruitful relationships. That's why I say unconditional agape love. Are you willing to die for the people you had sex with? Are you willing to?
So I don't know who she's had a relationship with. She'll have to answer that herself. But okay. Anyway.
Black.
Oh boy. Gambit.
Yeah.
Wow. We've all made this highly awkward. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I wanted to touch on some of the stuff that Fanatic was saying earlier. And like there was a lot of internalized racism in myself, but I think also in a lot of the people that are a part of my family. So when I was getting ready to graduate high school, I distinctly remember like 2 or 3 members of my family telling me, hey, you're going to marry a white woman. And what was embedded in that was you're going to be economically successful. So there's no way you're going to settle down with a black woman, right? And there's a lot of these memes and culture about, you know, black successful people, they get successful and then they go date white women and all of that. So the landscape is way different. And when we talk about these things like internalized racism, like it's actually a really big deal. And you don't want to fall victim to some of these things. And like when we look at every other culture, like most people date inside their race. So like I demonize people like Umar Johnson, but I don't think that the logic is incoherent. And I think a lot of people that rail against it act as if it's incoherent. It's just a value system that you don't have. It's not that it's nefarious in any way or something like that. So like most people, most people have the take that you should date inside of your race and marry inside of your race. If you look at any statistics, it's obviously true. So like
no,
when we
that's an incorrect conclusion to draw from the data.
And there's reasons why they do that, GSU. Come on now.
No,
it's still true that it happens.
That's not.
What are you saying is not true? Wait. Please explain to me. Wait, no. What claim is not true?
I'm explaining, and I don't know why Azzy jumped in. You said most people date inside their race, and then you drew from that the conclusion that most people obviously have the take that it's correct to only date inside your race, which is not the case at all. In fact, we know that people of a certain race tend to live in the same kind of areas, tend to have the same kind of
and maybe that's why they have the bias
and shit. So it's more likely that they'll find a romantic partner within their race. It's not necessarily an ideological thing. You can't draw that conclusion at all.
There are places in which it is ideological, but it's not like that's good. There are some different. I'm not saying that groups of people, ethnic groups that say, like specifically, like if you go ahead and date anybody outside of this ethnic group, like don't talk to the family anymore. That's not good. Yeah, I'm sure. I know it does. It's not good.
Yeah, most of that comes from a fear mindset of the fear of losing culture or the fear of the person.
Yeah, but you would agree it's not good.
The fear of.
I agree it's not good.
They may not understand.
Hold on, wait. What is not good? Excommunicating the family? Excommunicating. Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah, I think we all agree there. So I don't know why you guys need to say
no,
that.
but I'm saying it's so ingrained into the culture that like it's literally expected that you're gonna go ahead and date somebody within an ethnic group. And if you don't date within that ethnic group, the family's like, fuck you. Like it's literally being pressured from within the culture to say don't fucking date people outside of this group, and it's weird. And it's like I don't know.
But we're not arguing.
Wait. Hold on, wait. Because I want to explore this. I think that when it's white people like dating black people, excommunication is definitely a thing, but I don't generally see that. I don't know if it's true that when black people date white people, they get
I didn't say black people. I said there are ethnic groups. I didn't specify which ethnic groups.
No, I'm trying to, and that's why I'm asking you the question to see if you feel the same as I do, because you weren't specific. So I'm asking you a more straightforward question to see, are we on the same path or are we different, right?
I know very specifically, and I know like this group is not going to matter to you guys, but it is a large group. There's about 50 million people of an ethnic group called Marathis, which are in India. Yeah, they're Indian, but people leave India, etc. People that are Marathis live in North America, and people that are Marathis will say, like, don't fucking come near me if you're not Marathi, because my family says that we will go ahead and excommunicate you, and I don't want anything to do with anything but Marathis.
No question. I know a lot of people in those situations, and usually it's like literally their entire culture could be lost, right? Is it that type of situation where there's not a lot of people left that belong to this ethnicity?
I said 50 million.
That's not an issue. That's not the issue.
I thought you said 50 million. You said
50 million. 50 million.
Worldwide? That's not a lot.
What?
50 million? I mean, how many of them do you want there to be? It's a sub-ethnic group. How many are there supposed to be?
Well, you said you're Indian, and Indian has like 1 billion people, so that's like relatively very, very small.
Exactly.
It's a decently large chunk. They all belong within a state. Most people within that specific state are Marathi.
Insane amount of people. Like the
It's a lot,
population,
yeah, I agree.
the population of England, like around the time of the Great Fire of London, was like 1/10 of that. Like it's a huge population. Like you're not at risk of dying out if you've got 50 million.
Yeah,
Well, and that's why I was asking.
they're not at risk of extinction at any point.
You're not at risk of losing the culture, and it's not on the individuals. It's not the individual's prerogative to maintain.
Can I address some things really quickly that I written down?
As well, nobody's womb should be a
individual's
ideology.
It's up to the individual's choice whether or not to uphold that culture. And then this is why I said in Kararana's example, she said she identifies as multiracial because I believe both parents instilled within her both cultures. It's up to the individual to do that. And 50 million is like a third of New York State, which is like 150 million. So they're not.
New York State is 150 million people. No, it's not.
150. Last time I checked.
No, it's not.
The whole population of the U.S. is.
If it was 150 million, they would have 1/3 of what the entire country's representation.
I'll double check.
One half almost.
About half, yeah. California is the most populous state, and we have like 33 people. So yeah, it's not.
Yeah, as you know. There's only 330 million in the country, bro. They don't have half of the country.
Then I was wrong. I got the number wrong.
Oh, we're almost at
Okay.
40 in California.
Okay, so this is a large group. You don't have to worry about there being a thing of like, oh, there's not going to be enough of us. But it is really, it's very much propagated within the culture to not date without your group, with outside of your group. And when you're there, you can say, okay, that makes sense because that's basically every single person in the state. But then even when their kids go to other places, there's still the whole thing. So a lot of people will go ahead and they will go ahead and arrange a marriage for their kid, like in between graduation, like, you're going to graduate and get a job, come get married and bring this girl from the state back with you. Because they don't care if you date another Indian person. They don't want you to go ahead and date, some girl from Delhi. No, they want you to date another Marathi person. And if you go ahead and date another Marathi person, then don't fucking talk to us. Like, disowned, we don't want to see the kid. We don't want to know the kid. Now,
So that's fine. We agree.
That's bad.
That's bad. But like now we go ahead and propagate that. That person might grow up in North America, tell their kids better date another person from this group. And isn't that strange to go ahead and just continuously keep this mindset that, okay, even if I meet other people and I really like them, that's nice because I need to date within my group. And if I date outside of my group, then fuck it. Like I can't. And for you're a race traitor essentially. And the whole thing, and even from my experience, the people that are Marathi, they have to go ahead and separate from the family, and the families will not tell them anybody in any of the friends, any of the other Marathi people in the community that my kid married a non-Marathi, because then they get excommunicated. So basically, you're no longer one of us. Now, that's pretty extreme, obviously, but I just don't see, at the end of the day, what ends up being actually done is the same thing. You say, I don't care who I meet, because in my mind, it's more important that I go ahead and date black people. I don't care if I meet really, really, really amazing white people that go ahead and have all of my morals, but they're not the same race, so fuck it. I'm not going to date that person. Because I just don't see how sure, ideologically, it's different. But what ends up happening today,
So then you do.
Ideologically, it's different, but what ends up happening at the end of the day ends up being the same thing.
Okay, so that's where the problem comes in, right? I think if you're sitting here trying to determine whether or not something is good based on, and completely ignoring the intention behind the action, then you're going to always find yourself up in this situation where you're completely misguided and completely mischaracterizing things and completely associating them with things that literally that are completely different, right? Maybe you have a person that goes to school, that decides that they want an education, they want a higher degree so that they can do something really nefarious with it, right? Like, if you're going to look at that individual, if you're going to compare another person going to get a degree and say, boy, I mean, listen, like, it's the same thing as this person, right? Like, that's an obvious fallacy, right? Like, you don't judge something based off of the action. You would judge it based off of the intention, unless the action is causing some like measurable harm to another individual. So that just this is like the awesome rabbit hole. And then furthermore, I wanted to point out like this whole concept about like, oh man, I'm going to look for a person and I'm looking for a partner specifically to do this thing for my progeny and all that stuff is an insane mischaracterization. That's not the intention. I think the idea that I would be a forward-thinking individual such that I would look and think about the fact that I do want children, and so I would say whoever I'm going to be whoever I'm going to have children with is going to be someone that I should probably think I want to be aligned on various characteristics in order to achieve what I want through my children. I think it's a responsible thing to do. And I think too many people have kids willy-nilly out of wedlock, and they start doing all sorts of crazy things, and I think that those things have really negative and harmful impacts on society. Now, I get that that's the world that we live in nowadays, where a large portion of people are in single parent homes and things like that. I just don't think that it's ideal. And I'm obviously going to try to achieve things through an ideal thing. My dad was gone, and he would be in and out like in different times because of his lifestyle. It was obviously not ideal. My mother did the best that she freaking could with us. But ultimately, we recognized where there were plenty of areas where a missing father had effects. So I think. So the idea that I'm saying from jump, if I'm going to be marrying someone, I should be trying to consider some of the ideals and some of our some of our vision, that we should share a vision. That I think that's absolutely reasonable, and it doesn't require me objectifying a person. So that's a complete mischaracterization.
Wait, and do you think?
And then one last thing. The other thing that someone was saying about, oh yeah, I would. You said this, Katarana. Oh, I would date someone in order to work on my racism. That's stupid. Never did I say anything like that. That's completely ridiculous.
You said those words. I wrote them down verbatim. You said those words. I said if white people were to do that, that would be
I'm gonna keep talking. I waited. So with all that being said, I think that's absolutely absurd. No one ever said anything like that. I've already worked on my racism. I think it's still going to be obviously at work. There's all sorts of internalized racism.
Pippin, you do that
gets
too.
unpacked later on and stuff. But no, I'm not. I'll mute you if I need to. I'm not going to be I'm not going to date someone in order to work on my racism. I would say that that this is my dating preferences are the result of work already having been done. So I think you guys are just mischaracterizing everything. You guys keep arguing against all sorts of nonsense.
And then just a quick question. You'd be okay with white people doing the same thing? If there were white people that were like, I think it would make sense for me to just date other white people because I want to share the same values and all that?
So I don't think that white people could do the same thing, because remember, a humongous part of my underlying reasoning was specifically fighting against some of the systemic oppression and some of the marginalization and the demonization of black women.
What if white people
if society got to the point that they demonized white people to the same level, then I would be totally okay with white people doing that.
But what if there are some white people that feel like, that they've been demonized or that they don't get enough time in the whatever? Like, there are white people that have that feeling. Who are you to tell them that they wouldn't be allowed to?
White Americans.
I wouldn't. So I would never tell them that they're not allowed to, but I would say that they are.
I'm not saying not allowed to. Sure.
No.
I just like. I didn't know that in such a short time we would be people on the left would be arguing against interracial dating. I don't know.
I don't know that. Number one, I'm not arguing against interracial dating, because again, you keep doing this mischaracterization thing. You should probably stop that. So I'm not saying that other people can't date of people that are racist. I'm not saying other black people can't date people of the.
Well, you were making it sound like it would be misguided if white people. Hold on, you made it. You said.
Stop.
I was
Destiny. Destiny, and then Fanatic. You're gonna get right back into it. Destiny, finish what you're gonna say.
You said that you think that if white people did it, they would be misguided. So I mean, it seems like there's a judgment there that they shouldn't. They ought not to do it. People ought not to do misguided things. This is what misguided means. So it seems like you would advocate against white people doing it.
No, I said it would be misguided for white people to try to imply that that they are as oppressed as black people.
They might not have. Maybe they think.
So every time I try to respond.
Because you're saying the same shit you said a million times. I'm just trying to get to the heart of the matter.
Well, if I said it a million times, then why did I need to clarify it again? Because
you don't need to. Literally, nobody here needs you to clarify it again. Literally, nobody here. Yeah, nobody needs you to clarify it. Right. So my next question would be: what if there are just some people that feel like there are just so many shared values and shared history between like maybe people like a German ethnic background or Russian ethnic background, there who have been persecuted in different parts of history, depending on where you're at, right? Maybe they just want to date just that type of white person. Well, who are you to tell them that their oppression doesn't count or that that's not enough? Or I'm sorry, not to tell them that, but to feel that they're misguided.
So
I think there was a buzz. There was
you're
a
making this
BuzzFeed
false equivalency here because the things that were embedded in my explanation, there was a list of them. One of those things was the ongoing assault on the black woman.
Okay, I'm not arguing about.
So because of that, then these things cannot be equivalent.
I'm not arguing about the things on your list specifically. I'm arguing about the list itself. Like, who are you to say that, like, well, these are the requirements that need to be met for me to only date, like, intraracial. These are things that, like, what if other people think that there are, oh, okay, well, like, if he's got these justifications for why he only wants to date inside his own race, like, I think I have some good ones for why I only want to date inside my own race as well. Like, why are you
I want to add to
Azzy, can't even hear you. So just Fanatic finish point.
Yeah. So I get it. So you're saying like so since I have a list, so maybe a white person comes with the list and says something like, oh well, maybe because white people are genetically superior, I gotta honor their list because I have a list. Like
maybe because they have maybe because they have an Italian background and Italian Americans were oppressed when they came to the United States. So they're like, oh, we share that ancestry there, we share that history. So I want to only date Italian people, white Italian people.
They call Sicilians the black Italians.
I've been very specific about the requirements of my list, and I would say that the specificity is what kind of creates and informs my decision. So I don't know. If you can find me another person that qualifies within that list, then I would probably say it's reasonable. Again, I would also say,
I asked you, would you date an African or a Caribbean?
He can't.
They don't have the shared experience.
He can't hear you.
Okay, so
you can't ask him a question. He can't hear you.
You can't.
So hold on, fanatic question though. What Destiny is saying, and I think this is a good question, is you have your list and you define your list how you like it. Sure. He's saying if a white person has their list, they define it differently from you because they have a different value system, blah, 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 right? Mm-hmm. Are you okay with that person having their own list and living their life only in intra-racial relationships as well? Even though they qualify differently. I think that's what he's trying to say.
Ask him, and I would say that my list is based on a specific level of merit that I would say makes it morally justifiable. And I would assume that if someone else was going to have a list, that it needs to be morally justifiable. But if your list, so for example, some of the white people that want to make white ethno-states, I would say some of those lists aren't morally justifiable. But I feel like my list is very distinct from theirs.
Hold on, wait. I don't want you to do what they did to us. He gave you a specific example, so don't go to white supremacists, right?
Right.
He said,
but yeah, so for the example that he gave me, just like saying, well, German people were were oppressed years ago, like that was the example he gave, like basically, like, well, German
or
people,
Italians or Irish people or whatever,
or Italians or Irish. Like I want to date only an Irish person because an Irish person was oppressed. I would say that sounds like a stupid reason. But again, this is my own personal belief. The reason why that reasoning is stupid. See, again, you kept wanting me not to specify. The reason why that reasoning is stupid and my reasoning would not be, the distinguishing factor is that there is an ongoing assault on the black family and on the black image. So because of that ongoing assault that I think that is continuing now and will still be there with my progeny, then I feel that it's probably necessary for me to go ahead and fight against that. It's something that I need to make sure that I ward against. That's the difference. You could not say the same thing for them, so they're not the same thing.
Oh my God, hold on, I got a killer question.
Go ahead.
How do you feel about Jewish people that say the same thing about that in Israel?
It makes all the sense in the world to me for Jewish people. I would totally understand that.
What?
Okay.
Okay.
No.
It's a crazy world we're in these days.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Sounds consistent. For Jewish people, though, it definitely extends so far outside of race. It has a lot more to do with their religion and things like that. Even though a large amount of the Jewish community.
Wait, it has no. Hold on, just to be clear. Wait, just to be super clear, that is absolutely not true. It has nothing to do. It is not just the religion. It is majorly like the ethnic and territorial things that people fight over. It's not like the religion. People don't like bring out their Torahs and argue.
Religion is also an incredibly important factor. It's found in the Old Testament very much, and even within the New Testament. There are so many implications that clearly indicate that it's probably preferable for people. For people, you would be unequally yoked if you're marrying someone outside of your faith.
Okay, wait. I don't think we should go into this. I think this is way too complicated. We're gonna veer off.
I know. It's something I'm particularly well informed about. So all I'm saying at the end of the day is that specifically within the Bible, there are clear mandates, or not mandates. There are clear
Second
I don't know.
Doctrine.
The clear doctrine that clearly indicate that people should be married within their faith. So that's why when the Jewish person, it makes all the sense in the world. And even outside of black, even outside of all of that, I always had the understanding that I needed to marry a person that's a Christian because I plan on raising my children.
You do realize a lot of European Jews will not marry an Ethiopian Jew.
Okay, so then at that point, that's an intersectional issue. Now that's a race issue within the religion issue. So there is intersectionality. So you can have black Jews and white Jews and so on and so forth. So then there's a difference there. But at the end of the day, I would say that they probably still would have the belief system that they should marry a Jew.
Okay, Destiny, you keep expressing surprise that like this sort of stuff can be coming from the left, but I have to say, like,
you guys are fucking
we've been
crazy.
through this before with like Fanatic in terms of like showing that like his fundamentalist Christian views like are like incompatible with the leftist progressive movement. So like I wouldn't take this as like a sign of where the left is going and being woke or whatever. Because
I don't know, man.
Is it 62% of the left?
No, Vivian, you're not about to sit here and mischaracterize my words. It's literally your entire
I'm not
shtick.
mischaracterizing your words.
Sure. So absolutely within the left progressive movement, Christianity is 100% compatible.
Christianity is compatible, absolutely. Your brand of fundamentalism is not.
So which brand of fundamentalism would that be, Mix Vivian? Which one?
The brand of fundamentalism that doesn't provide positive reinforcement for people seeking homosexual relationships.
So the brand of my I'm going to respond to that. I'm going to brand that. You're not going to just gish gallop. You're not going to gish gallop. So you're talking about the brand of my fundamentalist Christianity that specifically says that I would fight for and be completely fight for all same-sex rights, and that I would that I don't believe in discrimination of any kind against any people, regardless of their sexual preferences. That brand. Which part of that is incompatible?
The brand in which you openly stated on a panel that you believe that homosexual relationships are harmful to the people who engage in them. The one in which you said you would not give any kind of like positive affirmation to a homosexual.
I never said those words ever in my. Those words never came out of my mouth. No, what I did say,
it was a sin.
Right, I did say it was a sin because that's literally biblical. I did say it was. I did. I'm going to respond. I did say it was a sin because it's literally biblical. But what I did also say was that I would 100% support any person in whatever lifestyle they chose. That I don't believe that the Bible ever indicates that you have to force someone to live in the way that you live. And here you are with that same ad hominem attack as you try to move the goalposts. I mean, as you always try to add up and mischaracterize my words and try to make me out to be some sort of.
Okay.
It is a mischaracterization. Hold on, Prime. Let me just finish this. So ultimately, I would absolutely support any person in whatever lifestyle that they choose to live because it's not my choice to condemn. I would love the person the exact same. The only distinction is I'm gonna have to keep talking over you because you literally want to just keep trying to do that. The only distinction is you specifically said I wouldn't say the specific words to them. I want you to be as gay as you can possibly be, which is the most ridiculous thing ever. I wouldn't have to affirm if my friend told me he was going to be an electrician, I wouldn't go to him and say, well, I want you to be the best electrician you would be. I'd say, okay, good.
Why not?
Whatever you want to do, live your life. Freak out of here.
Okay. You interrupted me because you were worried about gish galloping. And
real quick, I'm interrupting. I love you. I got to go to sleep, okay? It's been fun, okay?
Before you do that, I just want everyone to know. Because we had a lot of great people coming through, especially my good friend Joe. Everyone, if you want more of that woman, !Joe in my chat. She has a great YouTube video just featured on Thought Slime's channel. It's amazing. Go check it out. That was my good friend Joe. And if you're not fucking following me, this was fucking amazing content. Holy shit. You should have been here. All right. Anyway, Steven, thanks for being here.
Oh, can I shout out my stuff real quick before I leave?
Please.
Oh, just a quick shout out. Thought Slime, the channel was brought up. That guy that makes that channel, that dude is actual subhuman fucking trash. What a worthless fucking piece of shit that contributes nothing of value to internet discourse. Thanks a lot for having me. I love you guys. Bye. Remember to hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so that my videos show up right in your feed.
Destiny, he has a fetishization for black women.